the old cup of tea, I've just beat my personal best. So I'm just over half an hour in, and I'd started off with a 120, then I did a 120, a 121, and then I did a 20, 20, 20, 20, 20, 20. Yeah, I've just done a 120.075, sorry, my brain's firing a bit too quick, which is 0.2 quicker than my personal best. Big up the old cup of tea, eh? So I'll just, I'll keep going because I've still got half an hour left. Last 10 minutes now, and I'm still feeling quite focused and determined, that's for sure. I feel like I might have dropped off a little bit, but I can't figure out if that's because I've just beat my time and I'm really excited, or if there's like a peak to this and now I'm dropping off. But I'm struggling a little bit to concentrate. I'm not as focused as before, but I am still focused. So last 10 minutes, let's see if we can still beat this time. Cup of tea, your time is up. I've had a full hour driving now, and yeah, basically let's look at some time. So I did consistently 120s for the first half an hour, I think, just over half an hour, and then I beat my time, so I was super happy. I then did another 120 after that, but I had a lot of spins as well. You can see here there's a lot of gaps, and then I did, at the end I did 121, so my focus definitely dropped off. I felt my brain like wandering, thinking about other things and stuff, so my focus definitely went. So there was definitely an optimum to when this cup of tea worked, and yeah, I beat my time. I can't believe it. I'm quicker on a good old English cup of tea, so super happy. If you have any ideas that I could try, any drink or food, comment below. You know, if there's anything that you want me to try that you think that could make me faster, just let me know, and don't forget to like and subscribe.
Understanding the techniques used in rally driving will help you understand the relationship between car and road surface, and how to be the master of control under extreme pressure. Dirt Rally has a precisely detailed vehicle handling model, so you will need to utilise real-world driving techniques to get through our most technical stages in one piece. Master these techniques and you'll maximise the potential of every car, allowing you to get better stage times and challenge for championship victories. Weight transfer is the core component that most aspects of rally driving revolve around. That is, the inertia of the car's weight as it changes direction. This is the force that makes your body move as the car brakes, accelerates and turns. Weight transfer affects the amount of mechanical pressure applied by each of the 4 tyres against the road surface. When a car speeds up, slows down or turns, each tyre will experience a difference in that mechanical pressure compared to when the car is stationary. This results in an increase or decrease of the potential grip available. Braking and accelerating produces longitudinal weight transfer, and turning produces lateral weight transfer. It can also be influenced by other factors, such as the road surface, jumps and crests. Always try and manage the weight transfer at the moment it's required, whether accelerating, braking or turning. This will maximise the grip potential of each tyre, keeping you flowing in and out of sections throughout a stage. It is important to bear this basic principle in mind as you watch these guides, as almost all these techniques are used to manage weight transfer. Like an aeroplane, rally cars move in 3 axes: roll, pitch and yaw. Rally cars are known for performing big slides. Most of the time, these slides are induced by the driver to achieve as high a speed through a corner as possible without sliding off the road. In order to traverse a rally stage quickly and without crashing, you must manage the attitude of the car at all times. In rallying, the racing line means the same as in any other form of motorsport. That is, to straighten the track as much as possible through corners. However, unlike some other forms of motorsport where drivers use every inch of the track to find the perfect racing line, rally drivers have only one shot at each corner, so they often leave a small margin for error. As a rally stage undulates through forests or curves around mountains, it is not always possible to see the racing line. Accurate pace notes are vital so that you know where to place the car on the road even if the section ahead is not immediately visible. You should also listen out for obstacles such as gate posts or piles of logs that may cause you to take a slightly different line through a corner than you otherwise would. When you're out on stage, make sure you listen to your co-driver and position your car appropriately for the road ahead. Always try and allow a small margin for error. When you hear drivers talking about maximum attack, they are talking about when they are pushing as hard as they can to get the most out of the car. This often leads to some of the most spectacular moments in rallying as drivers set stage records or push too far and have an event-ending crash. Knowing when to push and when to be conservative are vital when competing in an event. If you're recovering from a mechanical issue and you're trying to make up time to the rest of the field, it may be a valid strategy to push harder as you have very little to lose. If you're in the top 3 and setting competitive stage times, it may be more sensible to take a conservative approach and avoid any big risks. In reality, drivers often take a measured approach, driving at 95% of their full potential so as not to make any big mistakes while still maintaining a competitive pace. In dirt rally, this measured approach is advisable as you get to grips with your car and how it responds to the stages and the conditions. If the front wheels of a car lose traction with the road surface while attempting to steer, the car enters a state known as understeer. Understeer is always bad and never intentionally used in any rally driving technique. In fact, some of these techniques are used specifically to avoid understeer. Understeer occurs if traction has been partially lost. The car will continue to corner, but at less of an angle than the direction of the front wheels. The car will feel like it is pushing forward. In this situation, applying more steering angle often makes the situation worse, as doing so requires even more traction than was initially being asked of the front tyres. If the wheels have entirely lost traction, the car will cease turning and will slide in the direction it was travelling before the wheels locked. This is particularly common while steering under heavy braking, as the traction of the tyre is being used partly to slow the car down and partly to turn. The correct response is to stop any input to the brake and accelerator and reduce the steering angle. This allows the weight of the car to settle and traction to be regained. On loose surfaces such as gravel and snow, there is an increased chance of understeer due to the reduced level of grip, so techniques are often used to induce oversteer to prevent the car from understeering in the first place. Front-wheel drive cars are particularly prone to understeer as all braking, accelerating and turning forces go through the front tyres. Understeer can occur while accelerating if the combined forces of accelerating and steering overcome the traction available. A similar loss of traction can occur due to braking and steering. Rear-wheel drive cars are least prone to understeer as the front tyres are only used to brake and turn. In fact, their characteristics are more prone to oversteer. Four-wheel drive cars tend to exhibit the characteristics of front-wheel drive cars under braking on corner entry and rear-wheel drive cars under acceleration on corner exit. Rally teams work hard to reduce these characteristics and give a more balanced setup. Remember, understeer is always bad. When rally driving, make sure you try and avoid it at all costs. If the rear wheels of a car lose traction with the road surface while attempting to steer, the car enters a state known as oversteer. This is when the angle of the car exceeds that of the steering input and the rear of the car steps out of line with the front. Unlike understeer, oversteer is often used as a technique to increase the speed at which corners can be taken. By proactively eliminating understeer, a higher exit speed can be achieved. How oversteer is induced and controlled depends on the type of drivetrain in the car. By definition, front-wheel drive cars do not have any drive to the rear wheels. Therefore, oversteer cannot be induced by applying the throttle, but can be induced by using weight transfer. Once a front-wheel drive car enters oversteer, the attitude of the car can be controlled by steering with opposite lock, accelerating, decelerating, or braking. Applying opposite lock while accelerating will effectively speed up the front of the car and will bring the rear of the car back in line. If more oversteer is required, for example if the corner is tighter than expected, decelerating or braking will increase the amount of oversteer by maintaining the weight over the front wheels and therefore reducing the grip on the rear. As the rear wheels of a four-wheel drive vehicle are powered, you can also induce and maintain oversteer by using the throttle to spin the wheels. Depending on the ratio of power delivery between front and rear wheels, the car may have a tendency to oversteer more or less on corner exit. If the ratio is biased towards the front, under acceleration the car may pull itself out of oversteer. However, if the ratio is biased toward the rear, applying power may increase oversteer by spinning the rear wheels. Subtle control of the steering, throttle and brake is used to initiate, maintain and exit oversteer, and the same weight shifting techniques apply to four-wheel drive as for front-wheel drive cars. Unlike front and four-wheel drive cars, rear-wheel drive cars require the opposite technique with regard to throttle control during oversteer. Oversteer can be induced and maintained by weight transfer, but also by applying power to break the traction of the rear wheels. Once oversteer has been initiated, continuing to apply power will maintain the slide. In order to limit or correct oversteer, throttle input must be reduced. Lift-off oversteer occurs when, during cornering, you lift off the throttle. Because the car is slowed by engine braking, there will be a certain amount of longitudinal weight transfer which will unload the rear tyres, causing them to partially lose traction with the road. In a front-wheel drive car, this weight transfer alone is enough to induce oversteer because the front of the car is usually heavier than the rear. In four-wheel drive and rear-wheel drive cars, although the difference in the static weight between the front and rear may not be as great as a front-wheel drive car, the effect is amplified by engine braking also acting on the rear wheels as they are unloaded by the weight transferring forward. The key thing to remember is that oversteer is used as a technique to increase the speed at which corners can be taken. You may be tempted to try and avoid using the brakes as much as possible, but there are two separate and equally important uses for the brakes in a rally car. The most obvious use is to slow down to a speed at which the car can take the next corner without crashing. The second, less obvious reason is to manage weight transfer before, during or even after cornering. Applying the brakes transfers more of the weight of the car over the front wheels, pressing the tyres against the road, giving them increased grip. The trade-off is that the rear tyres have less of the car's weight applied to them, resulting in less grip. Slowing the car down should only be done while the car is moving in a straight line. All four wheels don't need to be pointing forward, but the direction of travel should be as straight as possible. You should apply the maximum braking force without the front wheels locking. Depending on the corner you're approaching, you may need to partially lock the rear wheels to induce oversteer. Judging braking points correctly allows you to brake smoothly and continuously until the turn-in point, where you can release the brake and turn for the corner. Releasing the brake at the turn-in point means that the weight will have already been transferred to the front wheels when you turn, giving increased traction. You must always take the characteristics of the car and the road into account when braking. As well as the level of grip and characteristics of the road, many other factors can affect weight transfer. This can load or unload each tyre, affecting the amount of grip available and the distance required to slow down. Some examples are as follows. When travelling uphill, the effect of gravity working against the car results in shorter braking distances. The opposite is true when travelling downhill. When braking on a loose surface, reduced grip results in longer braking distances. The level of grip is often variable from corner to corner, so it is usually prudent to leave a margin for error. When braking on clean, dry tarmac, you will have shorter braking distances. As there is generally more grip, the car will tend to remain more stable than on loose surfaces. Conditions such as wet weather, mud on the road or ice will result in longer braking distances. The overall weight of the car has a dramatic effect. Heavier cars take much longer to slow down than lighter cars. If the wheels are inadvertently locking during braking, the wheels will slide across the surface rather than slowing the car down. So remember, use the brakes to slow the car down to a speed at which it can take the next corner without crashing, and to manage weight transfer before, during or after cornering. Always be aware of the road conditions and adjust your braking distances accordingly. The term left foot braking is often misunderstood as simply using your left foot rather than your right foot to operate the brake pedal. While that fact is true, it only scratches the surface in explaining the technique. If braking, accelerating and steering are the tools used to manage weight transfer, left foot braking is the tool for fine adjustment. Using your left foot on the brake pedal and your right foot on the accelerator has a number of advantages. The amount of time taken between pressing the accelerator and brake pedals is significantly reduced compared to using your right foot only. This means that fractions of a second are saved every time you swap from accelerating to braking and back again. If you apply a small amount of brake force while accelerating, particularly in a front-wheel drive car, the load that the engine and drivetrain has to work against causes the differential to tighten. This spreads the power across both wheels, making it less likely to spin one of those wheels due to low grip, therefore giving you more driving traction out of corners. Weight transfer can be fine-tuned mid-corner by adjusting the amount of brake force versus the amount of throttle applied. A little more brake input transfers weight forward, giving more traction on the front wheels to help the car turn in. A little more throttle corrects oversteer if the car is sliding too much. The car can be balanced at the edge of traction throughout a corner using this method. Brake balance adjustment can be used in conjunction with left foot braking to tune the balance between understeer and oversteer. Some of these principles still apply if you use your right foot on the brake, but clearly the speed at which you can move between pedals becomes a factor. Cars that require the clutch to be engaged in order to change gear usually prevent the use of left foot braking for slowing the car down from high speed. However, the technique can still be applied through a corner. Remember, left foot braking allows you to quickly switch between acceleration and braking and is a fantastic technique for fine-tuning the weight transfer of the car. Tyres operate at their optimum with a certain amount of wheel spin. On gravel, wheel spin lets the tread of the tyre move the loose material on the road surface and puts the tyre in contact with the harder surface underneath, where the most grip can be found. However, excessive wheel spin prevents the tyres from achieving their maximum grip potential, and so it's not always appropriate to floor the accelerator. The technique used to combat excessive wheel spin is known as feathering the throttle and is used primarily when exiting a corner to achieve maximum grip and therefore acceleration. Instead of using the accelerator pedal as an on-off switch, you can modulate the throttle input to find the most grip. The amount of throttle input required to do this will vary from surface to surface and even from corner to corner, so it is more a case of feeling for the grip than knowing exactly how much throttle to apply. As with braking, the inclination of the road ahead has an impact on the speed at which a car can accelerate. When travelling uphill, the car has to pull its weight against gravity and will accelerate more slowly than on a flat surface. Travelling downhill will allow the car to accelerate more quickly. Perhaps less obvious is the effect of altitude on the car. At high altitude, such as the mountain ranges that rally stages and hill climbs often traverse, the car will have relatively less power than at lower altitude. Engines need air to burn fuel, and so if more air goes in, more fuel can go in and more power can be produced. As the air density reduces with altitude, power output also reduces. Bear this in mind when you are driving up Pikes Peak, as the change in altitude is one of the most dramatic in motorsport. As with braking, weight transfer is an extremely important aspect of making a rally car turn. Simply turning the steering wheel does not guarantee that the car will move in the desired direction. As a driver, you must ensure that the weight is transferred to the correct place at the correct time. In general, the weight should be transferred to the outside front wheel relative to the direction of the corner. Braking places the weight of the car over the front wheels, but other factors should be considered, such as the current attitude of the car and the characteristics of the road. The current attitude of the car will vary depending on the section of road ahead. Two corners in the same direction will mean that the weight will already be in the correct place to take the second corner after the first. With two corners in opposite directions, you will have to make sure that the weight is transferred to the other front wheel after the first corner before the car will change direction for the second. The rate at which the weight transfers in any direction is dependent on the surface, the available grip, and the setup of the car. In sequences of corners that change direction, you can use the pendulum effect to help the car change direction from one corner to the next. Crests, jumps, dips and other obstacles can all destabilise the car and stop you from transferring the weight to the correct wheel, and so these factors need to be taken into account. Making sure that the weight is transferred to the correct place at the right time is one of the most important aspects of rally driving, so make sure you keep this in mind at all times. There is a common misconception that to drive a rally car quickly, you need to wrestle the steering wheel one way, then the other, as much as possible. When you turn the steering wheel, you are transferring the weight of the car to the wheels on the side where it's needed to load the suspension and provide traction for turning. If you rapidly move the weight from one side to the other, it is likely to destabilise the car, making it difficult to control. Continuing the soaring action on the steering wheel will progressively make the situation worse until either a crash or a spin has occurred. When cornering or making corrections to the steering, you should apply the minimum amount of steering necessary. In conjunction with other techniques, such as left foot braking to induce oversteer, the amount of steering input necessary may be considerably lower than would be required for the same angle corner in a road car. As well as keeping the car as stable as possible, using the minimum amount of steering takes the least time to apply and then remove. Consider a situation where the car unexpectedly and significantly oversteers. If you were to apply a lot of opposite lock, it may correct the situation. However, the rear wheels may suddenly grip, snapping the car out of oversteer, and you may have to rapidly unwind the opposite lock in order to prevent the car from transferring into oversteer in the other direction. Excessive steering lock would only serve to make this situation more difficult to control. So remember, always try to use the minimum amount of steering input possible in conjunction with other techniques to make sure the car remains as stable as possible. The handbrake turn is used in rallying more than in any other form of motorsport. The aim of performing a handbrake turn is to get the car to dramatically oversteer at relatively low speed, which enables a tighter turn to be taken than using the steering axis of the wheels only. Weight shift is still required, and you must use the momentum of changing direction with the steering in conjunction with the handbrake to get the rear of the car to slide. The handbrake can also be used to induce oversteer in a more open corner if there is insufficient traction on the front wheels to get the car to turn in at the required point. Remember, handbrake turns are used to navigate very tight corners such as hairpins that would be difficult or slow to drive around normally. So listen out for these types of corners in the pace notes. Pendulum turns are probably the most advanced technique used in rally driving. They are essentially the culmination of all the techniques we have described in these guides. They are used specifically to prevent the car from understeering on loose surfaces when approaching sharp turns or hairpins at relatively high speed. The technique works by using the momentum of the rear of the car swinging from one direction to the other. It must be timed correctly so that the final weight shift happens at the turning point for a corner. Modern rally teams put a lot of effort into reducing their car's tendency to understeer, so pendulum turns are not used as much in today's cars as they were with the classics. In order to explain the process, here are the inputs you should make and the effect it will have on the car at each point during a pendulum turn. In this example, the car is travelling at high speed on a straight piece of gravel road and has to make a 90-degree turn. As you arrive at the braking point, you get hard on the brakes to slow the car down and shift the weight of the car forward. With increased grip on the front wheels, flick the steering wheel in the opposite direction of the corner. The reduced weight over the rear wheels will put the car into oversteer, with the rear of the car stepping out and the front of the car pointing away from the corner. You can now increase your throttle input, reduce your braking input, and steer in the direction of the corner before modulating all three inputs. This allows you to maintain the oversteer until the point at which the car needs to turn in for the corner. It's worth noting that the lateral grip of the tyre combined with some braking input causes the car to rapidly decelerate, as if braking hard in a straight line. Now release the brake pedal and feather the throttle. This will snap the car out of oversteer in the initial direction. The momentum of the weight shift of the rear of the car, coupled with the acceleration and steering input, will initiate oversteer in the direction of the corner. At the turning point, apply full throttle and move the steering wheel in the same direction as the rear of the car. This is the pendulum part. You want the car to oversteer in the direction of the corner to help eliminate understeer. Now feather the throttle as the car is switching from oversteer one way to the other. You must move the steering wheel in the same direction in order to catch the second slide. You will now have oversteer through the corner. Keep feathering the throttle and control the oversteer with opposite lock. A perfect Scandinavian flick will see you hitting the apex and accelerating through the corner exit where the car is straight once more. Remember, this is an advanced technique and practice makes perfect. The advantage is that by deliberately using the momentum of the rear of the car, you can actively prevent the car from understeering into a tight corner. One of the most unique aspects of rallying unlike other forms of motorsport, is that you have to contend with many kinds of road surfaces. With varying surface types and conditions come varying grip levels. Tarmac, concrete, gravel, dirt, ice and snow, and their many variations are all surfaces you will have to get to grips with. While you will be given the most suitable tyres for the conditions in dirt rally, it is important to understand their characteristics. Not to be confused with the camber that is associated with suspension geometry, camber of the road surface should be taken into account, particularly when cornering. Positive camber, where the road is sloped towards the inside of the corner, can help the car maintain traction and higher cornering speeds can be achieved. Adverse camber, where the road surface is sloped away from the inside of the corner, tries to force the car away from the apex on the racing line, so lower speeds are often required. Although most corners have positive camber, a series of corners changing from one direction to the other, where the camber of the road also changes, can be challenging, and you must ensure that the car gets out of the apex of one corner, over the crown of the centre of the road, and into the apex of the next corner. In some extreme cases, the camber is so severe that the car will jump across the road as it moves from one side to the other. Make sure you place the car in the correct position on the road so that you are making the most of the camber. Jumps are often the most spectacular part of any rally stage, but you must consider several factors when approaching them. Firstly, since the wheels of the car will not be in contact with the ground for a period of time, you'll be unable to change direction or slow down while airborne. This sounds like an obvious point, but it means that you must ensure that the car leaves the ground with the correct attitude and correct speed in order to land in the correct place. If the road is straight, then it might simply be a case of making sure the car leaves the road while also pointing straight. But if the jump happens to be in the middle of a corner, you will need to ensure that the trajectory of the car will land back on the road. This is particularly important when there are ditches, rocks, trees or other obstacles lining the side of the stage. Weight transfer also plays an important role when approaching a jump. Depending on the nature of the road either side of the jump, there may be a need to slow down or even brake before it. Imagine approaching a jump at high speed, which has a sharp corner immediately after it. You would need to brake before the jump to reduce the speed, which would transfer the weight of the car over the front wheels. In general, it is advisable not to have the car in this attitude as it leaves the ground over a jump, as it would be likely to nosedive and land hard on the front, which could result in damage to the sump, radiator or suspension. Instead, you should brake up to the lip of the jump, but stop braking just before you take off to move the weight back to the centre of the car. In some cars, especially front-wheel drive or other cars that are nose-heavy, it may even be prudent to be accelerating as the car leaves the ground. Doing this will transfer the weight to the rear just before takeoff, which will further help prevent the car from nosediving. Remember, even though big jumps at high speeds can be spectacular, taking them at the highest speed possible may not be the quickest way to tackle a jump. The longer a car is airborne, the more it slows down, so you should consider taking a jump at a slightly lower speed to get the wheels back on the ground as soon as possible. Although seemingly innocuous, crests can dramatically impact the stability of the car. Even if the car doesn't leave the ground as it would over a jump, a crest can often cause the car to go light and unload the suspension and tyres, resulting in reduced traction. This is particularly important if the crest is immediately before, during or after a corner, and they should be taken into account when approaching them. The other thing to consider is that depending on their size, they can prevent you from seeing the road ahead. Again, this is particularly important if the crest is immediately before a corner. Imagine approaching a crest which you cannot see over at high speed that is immediately before a slight corner. It is essential that you put the car in the correct place on the road and at the right attitude to take the corner, even though the corner cannot be seen until the last second. Bumps can also unload the suspension and tyres, reducing traction by flicking the front, rear or one side of the car upward. Rally stages are usually uneven surfaces, but particularly bad bumps that unsettle the car or require you to do something different than you otherwise would are often called out in the pace notes. Bumps don't always stretch across the entire width of the road, and so evasive action may be necessary, such as moving to one side of the road. Dips or other compressions in the road surface can be unpredictable and should be treated with caution. Dips that occur over a long distance may not have too big an impact on the car, but those that are shorter can act like a severe bump, as the suspension is compressed and then rapidly extended, causing the car to be flicked into the air. Extra caution needs to be taken when traversing extremely rough terrain, with many bumps and dips that can unsettle the car. Care should also be taken when crossing water splashes, as they can, like dips and bumps, be unpredictable. Depending on the depth of water and the width of the crossing, the approach may change from flat out to slowing right down and just driving through it at a normal road speed. Hitting deep water at high speed can damage the front of the car, and so it is often better to lose a few seconds by slowing down than losing minutes with mechanical damage. Remember, this is why bumps, dips and water splashes are called out in your pace notes, and where listening to your co-driver is extremely important. There are many types of obstacles that may be encountered on a rally stage. On a gravel stage through a forest, it is not uncommon to come across logs, branches or large rocks. Rally cars have strong sump guards and other underbody protection, and in gravel setup, the suspension travel and tough tyres allow the car to drive over most obstacles. Evasive action may need to be taken if the obstacle is large enough to damage the car or cause a crash. Lower suspension setups with shorter travel and lower profile tyres like those used in tarmac rallies mean that more care must be taken when making the split-second decision to drive over or around obstacles. Fixed obstacles such as gate posts, bridge parapets and cattle grids often require consideration and are therefore included in the pace notes with sufficient description to allow the driver to pass them safely. Make sure you are prepared to take the necessary precautions to avoid a rally-ending incident when you hear these obstacles called out. Unlike a race circuit where drivers learn every inch of the track, rally drivers tackle hundreds of kilometres of unique road during every rally. And so in order to be fast and safe, they use pace notes. Not all pace notes are the same. Which system is used and what features of the road are called out are down to driver preference and can vary greatly from one driver to the next. There are many variations of co-driver systems used, but in dirt rally we use 6-to-1, made famous by the legendary man himself, Colin McRae. In this system, 6 is the fastest, least severe corner, and 1 is a slow, almost 90-degree corner. We then have square, hairpin and acute to describe even tighter corners. There is a general misconception that the number relates to the gear you should be in, but this isn't always the case. If you come out of a right 2 in second gear immediately into a left 6, you are unlikely to change straight into 6th gear. Distances are generally given in metres, for example 60, 80 or 100, unless the corners are really close together, in which case and or into may be used. Additional description of detail in the road ahead is also necessary. Calls such as care, caution and double caution signify sections where extra care should be taken. Descriptions such as open, tighten or double tighten are used when the angle of the corner changes midway through. Corner length is also described using half long, long or continues for. Crests, bumps and jumps, as well as other variations that you can drive through such as bad camber, dips and water splashes are also called out. Perhaps the most important calls of all are those telling you when an obstacle is present, meaning that you should avoid cutting the corner or running wide on corner exit. In these situations, the co-driver will call "don't cut." It is vitally important that you listen to your co-driver and don't cut in these situations. Another important aspect of pace notes is the timing. This is the point at which the co-driver delivers the note to you, relative to the position on the road. Again, this is down to preference, but it is common for the pace notes to be delivered 1 or 2 corners ahead of where the car is on the road. This allows you to build up a mental picture of the road ahead, so that you can put the car in the correct attitude at the correct time to achieve maximum speed. While some drivers prefer pace note to be delivered later than others, it is critical that you are given each note before the point at which you would need to react to them. The most obvious example of that would be a braking point for a corner. If the pace note is given to you after the point at which you would need to brake, particularly for a corner that cannot be seen on approach, this is a late note. Many crashes in rallying have been caused by the co-driver not giving the driver the pace note in time. If you want to, you can adjust the co-driver call timing in the player preferences menu so that the calls are delivered with the timing that suits you. A very good afternoon to you from Silverstone in the UK. You join us for the finals of Dirt Rally 2.0 World Series Season 2. We are crowning champions today. We've gone through thousands of competitors across the platforms, Steam, PS4 and Xbox, to get us to the point where we had quarterfinals, semi-finals and now the final. We've got the 6 best players in the world on Rally for you now, and at 1700 UK time later on today we'll be doing Rally Cross as well. So stay with us. We've got an afternoon packed full of brilliant esports, thanks to Thrustmaster, to Dirt Rally 2.0 and to Traction as well. My name's Andrew Coley, delighted to be here this afternoon with the legend that is John Armstrong. Here he is. There he is, as if by magic appears. John, you've been in this situation before, you know, fighting for a world title in esports. The pressure is on here, isn't it?
For sure. There'll be lots and lots of pressure on the guys here this afternoon. Probably a little bit more easier than if it was at an actual event with lots of spectators and they were, you know, in a venue and they're all side by side, because then you can actually put a little bit of pressure on each other and do a little bit more of the sort of mind games. That's something that I tried to do whenever I knew I wasn't as quick as maybe one of the other guys. But yeah, they're going to have to, you know, just get in the zone, go flat out, and I'm sure once they go into the first stage, they'll forget about all the nerves.
Can we see mind games via WhatsApp maybe, or, you know, via Discord if they've got, you know, if they're on there? Could it just be like, well, everything's going brilliantly? Is that the sort of thing you're talking about? You just,
yeah,
you know, it's like in a real rally when someone sees that last stage was slippery, you're like, no, I thought it was all right actually, because that plays on people's mind.
Yeah, it's not. You're not trying to do anything, you know,
underhand. No.
Yeah, but you're just, you know, that you can
head game.
Yeah, a little bit of head game.
Mega.
But we'll see. We'll see if any of that comes out in today's competition.
Yeah, I'm sure they'll all be together in a little Discord or a WhatsApp group somewhere. So we're expecting fantastic competition. As I say, we've got ourselves right to this point. The last stage, of course, was the semi-finals, and you can take a look back at some of the action from that now.
Super tricky section over that. Lucky pitches the car in.
Tidily done. It was indeed Jared Pesh who took it.
Oh, which is a good method, but we've seen a bit of a mistake there from Kazuna Koda.
But couldn't it at the moment?
Yeah.
Oh, a huge jump. Robin Johnson takes ahead of Kazuho Iwata. What's he got written on the mask?
Eagle something?
Eagleizer? Eagle-Eye. Oh, he's binned
rolled.
it! Harry Eagles binned it while we were on board. Matasia's up there. Matasia and Pankinen swapping hundredths of a second at the top of the leaderboard. Matasia takes it. John, for me, these are absolutely crucial, and just a clatter there on one side and then the other.
Lots of speed to be carried through there. Runs up the bank a little bit.
Oh!
Oh no!
Oh, surely going to take a wheel off. EXR Tiger taking it. Jared Pesh right with him.
Is he stuck in a gear?
No, he can't be. What's he doing?
Coming up to the massive jump.
Get in. Matasia and Pankinen. Oh, there's nothing in it. Okay, here we go. Off the line, trying to find a bit of traction all the way over to the right. I'm stealing that line. Again, a lot of limiter action, John. Interesting. I think Delormeau maybe going to take a second back on that lead over the finish line now. Whoa!
Perfect, and like you said last time, big rock on the right there. You need to miss that spot, get your braking done.
You're on board with Kazuho Iwata now, and I tell you what, he's absolutely locked in through there. That is proper committed. No, DNF by 1 second. And I think that is going to put Nicolo Ardizone and Kazuho Iwata through. Oh my goodness me, that is lit from Jared Pesh.
That suspension's taking a beat.
EXR Tiger's gone. Left-hand side of your screen dropped a long way back.
Oh,
and it's a mistake for power. So Jared Pesh, who's just about to book his place in the final, coming through the last couple of corners. Now mistake! The Estonian's gone off the road at the last corner. No way! Okay, Jared's taken it and goes through 100. Look at the gaps. There's Pankinen, bottom right. I would suggest he's still doing Finnish national service and the haircut. Matasia's name, yeah, if you look at the left-hand side, the gaps are opening up. Pankinen is ahead of Matasia, ahead of Bottas. Pankinen has got that last corner to go, and then he's got the short squirt on the throttle. There it is. Pankinen, the world champion, is through. Fist pump, yes! Pankinen's gone through and Matasia with him. In the end, they were 6 seconds up the road from Bottas. Unipi and Lucas Matasia through to the final of the Dirt World Series. Fantastic. How close between Matasia and Pankinen. Pankinen, of course, the reigning champion. Una Pankinen also won the Dirt 4 Series prior to Dirt Rally 2.0. That was when Rally and Rallycross were in together. So Pankinen, reigning champion, you could call him, double champion if you go back to the previous title. Can he make it 3 in a row? Can Matasia beat him? Matasia is the only driver today who's in the finals for both Rally and Rallycross, which is a hell of an achievement. So I say, stay with us. It's going to be brilliant. Semi-final action. Now, we had our producer with us. Producer Tom was with us in the semi-finals. Unfortunately, he's not very well at the minute. You can guess why he's not here. He's not allowed to come into work. I'm glad to say there's a mild case of COVID-19, which unfortunately has not allowed us to have a land final. So wishing you all the best, mate. Get well soon, and missing you here, obviously in the separate room where all of our guys are. We hope you're having a good time at home watching, and we hope you're feeling entertained. Right, format for the final. We're going to have a look and see just how this final is going to go down. It's slightly different than we've had during the quarterfinals and the semi-finals. We'll get that up on screen for you in just a moment. And here we go, on to the final there. So we had tens of thousands of competitors, and we have whittled that down through qualifying on the platforms, the quarterfinals and the semi-finals to 6 finalists and 5 stages. 1 Dirt Series champion at the end of today. Well, not even that, in an hour's time. The 6 drivers will compete together as they have done on the previous stages of the competition through stage 1, 2, 3 and 4. At the end of stage 4, the guys who are in P4, 5 and 6 are out. They go no further. So then we have the top 3 drivers only will do stage 5. And they'll do it one at a time, so the pressure is really on, and that single stage will decide who takes home the Champions Trophy. Dirt Rally 2.0 World Series Champion Season 2. I think it's a big deal. What do you think, John? I mean, you've won an esports world title before. How much do they want this?
Well, there's a huge community out there of players, and these guys are effectively the superstars in that community, and everyone's looking to them as their heroes. So, each finalist here today really wants to take that gold trophy home, and they may settle for the other 2, but they'll definitely have their eyes set on the gold. Yeah, so it's a bit of pressure, but there's some amazing drivers here today, some of the best on Dirt Rally 2.0.
I wanted to ask you about Una Pankinen, say double champion. Obviously you won. Did you go back and try to defend your title the following year of esports?
Yes.
So how was it going back as the defending champion? Because that's the position that Una's in today.
It's quite tricky because sometimes it's on a different game, and the characteristics of the finals can change too. So it is difficult. You've got a bit more pressure, but also you've got the pressure off your back of having already won a championship. So It's one of those things. You know, I did try and win it again, but perhaps didn't put in as much effort. So as long as UNIP has put in the effort, then he should be able to do it today again.
Be interesting to see how it goes. Of course, last year, Una Pankinen was actually doing his Finnish military service, and I believe didn't have the time to put the practice in, and still managed to come through and take the title. So it's going to be brilliant. Now, we need to talk, of course, stages and cars. You need to know what we're doing. We're using one car this time out, but we're going to 5 different countries. So let's take a look, and me and John can talk you through some of the brilliant places we're going. And in one of, well, do you know what? If I could own one rally car, it's a tough one. It'd either be a Peugeot 306 Maxi, an Impreza WRC 97, or this car, which was my hero car, John. 95 Group A Impreza. We're looking at it in the traction livery. Each of the drivers has their own coloured livery, so you'll be able to keep up with who's in what car. We'll run through that when we're in the competition stages. We're starting in Monte Carlo, super slippery, and then on to Sweden. Both these events with a bit of icing, but in a very different way.
Yeah, 100%. And it'll be interesting to see what tyres the guys take for that first stage, because depending on the stages in Monte Carlo, there can be a lot of dry tarmac or ice. So they could choose a winter tyre or a soft slick. So it'll be interesting to see what they choose, but they will have done lots of testing to find out what they want.
And just, yeah, that's true actually. So they've had their equipment, they've had their Thrustmaster equipment and their PCs, because this is a home final. We've made sure everyone's got the same kit. And they've actually had that for a week. So John, they've had more practice than they would have had if we'd had this at the Autosport show, because they only got, what, half an hour, I think, there last time. We'd had a different esports the day before, and the drivers only just got their hands on the equipment before the final. New Zealand, one of my favourite stages. We can see me having a calling attempt at that in just a few short minutes. And also Spain, and then we go to Wales to decide the world title, and it's a hell of a stage. It's Sweet Lamb.
Yeah, Sweet Lamb's one of the most famous stages in the World Championship, and yeah, you know, the guys know the stage pretty well. It's very, very famous within our game, and yeah, the 3 drivers that get through, they're just going to have to give it absolutely everything to try and get the title in that last stage.
Yeah, I can't wait. That's it. And the pressure there is good, because if you're the leader, thing is as well, because the accumulative times are gone before. So the 4 previous stages, effectively, you've got to be at the front 3 to make it to the last stage, and then we delete all the time. So you can't come in there with a lovely 10-second lead and then back it off. So really, it's win it or bin it. The only advantage, I think, for me of being the leader at that point is you get to go last, by which I mean you've seen the level of risk they took, which will be key.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to allow the last driver going into the stage to know what their performance needs to be to clinch the title.
Did they make a mistake? Yeah.
Yeah, and they'll be watching the stream too. They can see what lines the drivers are taking, where they make little mistakes. So it's a huge advantage. So
you want to be leading.
You want to be leading going into that last stage for sure.
Okay. Now, someone who would not have been leading is me, because I spent a whole day in this studio playing Dirt Rally 2.0, and I've got to say there are worse ways to spend your day at work. I do appreciate that. I did actually do some good stages, but here's some highlights of maybe not quite so good. I am taking the traction-backed Subaru Impreza 555 Group A car, famous Group A car, to Wales. We'll chuck it about a bit, have a bit of fun, try and talk you through the stage. I always think when you hear the over-jump pace note, if you don't get a jump, and I barely got a jump there are times in the game I'm like, how's that a jump? And then you realise that John Armstrong wrote the pace notes, and then this is a long 2 right, and he's rolled it straight over the fence. Too hot into there. There we go, just take out their post box, that's fine. Too much down the fence, messed the line up, hits the bank, and rolls. I did say I'd talk you through the stage, see what works. That doesn't work. Oh, it's radiator lights on and everything. Pro driver going to be livid. So we've just been discussing tarmac spec Group A Imprezas. I do quite fancy one. They are quite rare. So you can actually win yourself some equipment if you'd like to go and have a crack at playing Dirt Rally 2.0. Perhaps you've never played it before. We might have some people watching who don't own the gaming equipment that's necessary. This is your chance via Traction. I say if you want to see the full 15 minutes of that video, head to traction.gg or at TractionGG across all the social medias and YouTube as well, and you can see 15 minutes of me crashing. Then you can try to beat my performance, which won't be too difficult, by entering this competition. That is a mega prize. It really is. A PS5, an Xbox Series X, and an RTX 3070 3070 gaming PC. What would you say, John? How's the correct way to say that? 3070. It's a good one, isn't it?
3070.
There you go. You see, there are 4 ways to say it. But yeah, winner will be announced on the Traction GG social media pages on March the 5th. Literally, that's all 3 together. You don't get to win one of them. You win all 3. Quite what you're going to do to play all 3, I don't know. What would you do?
I guess you could have one in each room of the house.
Yes.
That would be one way to
And
resolve.
it is annoying when one of your mates has got an Xbox and you've got a PS4 or somebody like you play on PC. I'd love to play against you, but I play PS4 at the minute. Don't have a PS5. Maybe I'll enter. I won't be allowed to win, sadly. But yeah, I mean, imagine having all 3. That's great.
Yeah, it'd be absolutely amazing. It's a great prize, so make sure to enter and try and get your hands on it.
You're going to need 3 Thrustmaster steering wheels, 3 sets of pedals as well. I mean, you know, it's not quite a done deal, but that is a massive prize, absolutely huge. So that's all on Traction if you fancy a look at that. And thanks as well to the guys who have me up for a day of playing. So there was a couple of decent runs on the stage. The full videos on YouTube. Right. We should get down to business. Let's take a look at the entry list for Dirt Rally 2.0 Season 2, the final, on the rally side. Here they are, and that is the liveries which they're using. So we'll run through the drivers one by one, and then we'll take a quick look at them as well. So in the red car, we've got Kazuho Iwata, Japanese driver. Nicolo Ardizone is in the blue Impreza. Lucas Mateja in the yellow car. Una Pankinen, the reigning Dirt Rally 2.0 champion, in the green Impreza. We've got Jared Pesch in the pink Traction colour car, and Theo Rochelle in the grey and black at the bottom. We can take a look at these guys one by one. So there is Kazuho Iwata in Japan. Trying to think, it'll be later in the day there. I think they're about 8 hours ahead, if I remember correctly. I have been lucky enough to go to Japan a couple of times for work. And so he's late into the evening. He's been waiting all day. I kind of wouldn't like that because you've been waiting around all day to do it. Nicolo Ardizone. Nicolo, we're lining up for you now. Kazuho was looking pretty chilled, John.
Yeah, he's just relaxing on his phone, probably doing some last-minute...
setup changes?
Yeah,
or, yeah,
just doing a bit of research.
Okay, Nicolo Ardizone. There's Nicolo. Is Nicolo on his? What's Nicolo doing? He's making some adjustments, I think. There is he John to the wheel potentially.
It does look like he's pressing a few buttons down.
He doesn't know he's on the stream. Now, if this was, I like his setup with a little name sticker down the side. I would be not watching the stream because I wouldn't want the added pressure of knowing we're having a little look at him and saying what's going on.
For sure, I think the media side of things and cameras can really put these drivers off.
Smaller screen than I was expecting for Ardizone. He's using quite a small monitor there.
Sometimes using a small screen is an advantage, especially if you're in bonnet view. It means that you don't have to look as far over each side to see where your bonnet is, the edge of your bonnet.
Lucas Mateja. I'm wondering now, are they all sending each other the what you were saying earlier, the mind games? Yo, have they started already? Oh, is that Lucas's mum just coming to wish him luck? I hope so. That's brilliant. Maybe his other half. But either way, Lucas, we're wishing all the finalists the best of luck, John, because it's high pressure now.
For sure.
They've got to try and beat this man, Una Pankinen, who's the next driver we're going to see. There is Una P, the reigning world champion, Dirt Rally 2.0. He is good to go, isn't he? He is good to go. Yes, Una P. And I think has he got green gloves on to match the car there? Has he got a little green stripe on the gloves? I think he has, which is matching the Impreza that he's going to be driving.
He's got a nice cat shelf in the background there.
He has,
the tower.
I hope he doesn't end up with any crazy cats.
Yeah.
Imagine that, a crazy cat, leaping across the screen. I mean, stranger things have happened. Jared Pesch. Jared, welcome along to the final. Very best of luck to you as well. Say best luck to all the drivers. Pesch with his headset on. Good to go. And finally, we're looking for Theo Rochelle, who is in the black Impreza at the bottom. So Theo, we're lining up. There is Theo, cans off just for a second, putting them back on, getting himself good to go. Nice to see the guys all in their sponsored shirts and just getting themselves settled in, ready for the first stage. I should think they are just about ready for us to shut up and to get into the stage, aren't they? How would you be feeling now? Like I wish it was a land final. We all wish it was, and we wish you all the best at home. We're really nearly there. The vaccine's being rolled out around the world. We hope we can have a land final next time out. So wishing you the best wherever you're from. But it's not a land final. They're at home. But I still think they're going to be nervous. Una P looking confident.
Yeah, Una P's looking very relaxed and not as scared of us as the media looking in on him. So yeah, very confident, and it looks like he's relaxed, and that's what we were speaking about. He's already won 2 championships, so he probably doesn't feel as much pressure to win this one as the other drivers because they've never won it before.
Okay, we're good to go. The drivers have got their equipment at home, of course. They are all using equipment from our fantastic sponsors, Thrustmaster. So here's a little look at some of the Thrustmaster kit you can get at home, especially if you win that prize from Traction. You know, full all the gear. Maybe no idea like me. Have a look. Some decent kit there, John. I know you use the full-on handbrake. You can get a proper clunk on that for the gear shift as well if you're using it as a sequential shifter.
Yeah, the TSS handbrake, it has a sequential mode as well, so it feels absolutely amazing. I know it's a handbrake, but the sequential mode is amazing. It feels proper realistic, very clunky, like a real sequential gearbox. Yeah, and if you got two of them, you have one in sequential mode and one in handbrake mode, and in my eyes, that's the perfect setup for rallying.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to take over the spare room. I think it's I have to keep folding my brilliant play seat. I can't complain. Folding it up, putting it away. You know, I might have to. Not quite sure whether or not the wife would take me taking the whole spare room. What do you think? It's time, isn't it?
I've done something similar in my girlfriend's apartment. I've basically taken over the spare room. It's I work there during the day, and I've got the whole simulator set up in the corner and everything. So
John's girlfriend. I'm so sorry. You know, but that's
she's very good, bless her. She's very good.
Well, I need to persuade my wife that the spare room is about to become a full sim room. So we're yeah, this might be happening. But yeah, great kit from Thrustmaster. Drivers will get themselves set up. We apparently have got them loading into the lobby, so they're about to leave the service area to head to Monte Carlo, Route de Turini Monte. Now, this is a mixture of tarmac and slush and snow and ice, John. I
for tarmac, and if you're making the transition between the ice onto that, you get a sudden grip gain or loss. Yeah. And sometimes that's hard to manage if you're not used to it. But of course, these guys have been practicing all week. They're going to know how to drive on this stage.
I was going to say that for me, the thing is just chuck it over the ice and brake after. They will have learnt that, won't they?
But in game, you're willing to do that risk
against a broken telegraph pole, isn't it? I think, or maybe
they used that stage again for the first time this year.
Brilliant.
Cool.
My other favourite picture, which is not the Monty, is Hannonen's Fabia S2000 on top of a house. You seen that one?
Yeah, on top of a shed.
Yeah, it's like 20 feet from the road. It's just brilliant. So, rallying, it's a wonderful sport. If you've not played the game, get amongst it because it really is. It's the closest you're going to get to a proper rally experience. I promise you that. Are we nearly ready? Are they? One more. We're waiting on one more. So to run through the cars again, Kazuho Iwata is in the red Impreza, Niccolo Ardizone in the blue, Lucas Mateja is in the yellow car, Pankinen green, Jared Pesch pink, and Theo Rochelle is in the black Impreza. We've got 4 stages before we head through to stage number 5, which is going to decide our champion. First stage up now. So this is Lucas Mateja, who is the only driver to be in the final for both rally and rallycross. I'm actually feeling pretty nervous now. We're missing car 2 top right, but I think that's because the stack only shows 5 cars, so I think we're okay. On board with Mateja off the line, and we switch straight through to the roof camera. Chucking it through the first few corners. John is using full width of the road straight away. You can look at the left-hand side of the screen. These guys are so evenly matched already. Even this first section of the stage is hard.
Yeah, we've already got those ice patches, and we're just coming up to a right-hander soon, which is dry on the start of the corner, and then it turns to full ice. It's so tricky to get your line right. This is it here. See how tentative they're being.
Listen to Pankinen on the throttle as well. You're on board with Una Pankinen now, the world champion, the reigning champion. About 5 or 6 inputs on the throttle just through that right-hander to get the car at the exact angle he wanted. That was lovely.
Yeah, he's really good at managing his inputs, especially the throttle input. A lot of speed carried over that crest. That's proper committed into the hairpin. As you can see, he used the snow on the inside to rotate the car. He just nibbled
hooked the wheel.
Yeah, which is a strategy you can do. But as you can see, so much ice here.
Early in over that crest, that's another one that I struggle with. Then you've got the ice, then dry tar, then ice, then standing on the anchors, open hairpin right. Beautifully done. Pankinen looking really strong, but John, he's not making inroads into anybody else just now. And at the minute he's in P3, Iwata in Ardy's own. Look how close it is between them. They're constantly swapping places, those top P2 and P3.
Yeah, super close so far. It looks like Jared Pesh maybe drop back a little bit.
Theo Rochelle as well. So Theo Rochelle is showing now on the left-hand side of your screen is slightly further back. Outside now looking at Pankinen in the green Impreza. What a good car, but John, not as easy to drive as the R5s.
No, this car is notorious for being quite lazy. You know, in that era, they didn't have the same technology on the diffs or the suspension, so you really have to chuck it in to get the chassis to rotate, and you can see the guys turning in so early here.
That's what I love about this car, though, and if you want to go back and watch some rally videos from the 90s, or Pankinen over rotation in the middle of the corner, but pretty much perfect on the exit. Early up the gears as well to kill the wheel spin on the exit. You have to pitch it in, as you say, but that's why I love these cars, John, because you'd see them come down and they would have to Scandinavian flick it 2 or 3 times sometimes on the brakes to get it turned in. It was mega.
I always think this car is a little bit like a tractor. You can be super aggressive with it, and yeah, it doesn't punish you for being aggressive. I think that's what makes it so drivable. But it's really good to see Iwata out in front here. I was not expecting that, but he's been competing in Dirt Rally 2.0 competitions this year. He was in the little series that I organised, and he was the fastest driver on that. So you can see this practice is paying off for him.
Look how committed he is. Kazuho Iwata now on the full snow section of the stage, clips the wall, gets away with it, does he? May have lost a couple of tenths. Pankinen to the lead, so now Pankinen, Pesh and Iwata could not be more closely matched. This is absolutely fantastic and exactly what you would expect of a World Championship final.
Yeah, super close so far, but that mistake definitely lost them a couple of tenths, if not a couple of seconds.
Look at Pankinen transitioning the car, though, beautifully flicking the weight from one way to the other into the hairpin now. Look at that shot as well. Perfect drone helicopter shot through the hairpin. Lovely stuff.
As you can see with those hairpins, though, they're not full of ice, so you can actually have a good strategy through them to pick your way and try and find that dry tarmac.
Pankinen early down the gears through the right and flicks the car back the other way. Now we switch to Lucas Mateja. So Mateja in the yellow Impreza over the crest, runs the car out towards the wall. Either side, there's a couple as well, John, where you can end up off the road terminal damage, so some of these banks will support you, but you can go over them, and there's a couple of places with wood barriers, which I always find, where you go straight off the edge of the road and that's it, game over. Terminal damage is on, remember, clips the wall on the exit. Mateja fully lit now, pitching it in early again. So yeah, they can get punctures, John, if they take too many risks and run it down the wall. Yeah,
that's it. You know, Andrew, how easy it is to pick up a puncher in real life. So whenever you've got the extreme damage turned on, it makes the vulnerability of the tire even higher. So if you hit something, there's a high probability you will get a puncture.
Kazuho Iwata, bottom right of your screen, in Japan, live right now, threading the eye of the needle in Monte Carlo for the first stage. 4 of these drivers at least are going to be super close. Theo Rochelle has definitely had a problem in this one. Crosses the line. Who took it? He's so close. It looks like it might have been Mateja that's taken it on the board there on the right. Iwata could be 4th. Theo Rochelle coming around now. He's not far behind, maybe 9 seconds. Look how close it is. Unbelievable at the top. Pesh taking it. We're talking about hundredths. It's not even tenths. It's going down to hundredths on the right-hand side. 440.6 for both the top 2 drivers. Pankinen with a 440.8. That is insane. 441.4 for Lucas Mateja. That is so close, John. And then a little bit of time drop for the 2 guys at the back. But so close.
I wasn't expecting Pesh to be the winner in that stage, because I think it was so close. Whenever they're literally on the same time on the leaderboard, they stack up, don't they?
Yeah.
So I was not expecting that, and that was amazing to see. And the guys.
I knew it was going to be close, but like that's ridiculous.
Basically 2 tenths separating the top 3 on that stage. Amazing.
Problem for Rochelle. You've got to reset now. Theo Rochelle has got to reset the Frenchman and go again. Like, yeah, you've had one issue. There are 3 more stages to go. You are on the back foot. How do you cope?
You just have to give it your all. I mean, anything can happen. If he's had a bad stage, someone else can have a bad stage. Someone could have terminal damage or anything.
So do you up the risk now? Because again, you can't. You don't. Well, you saw people riding banks. You're risking punctures. you know, anything like that, and it is game over instantly. But as you've already lost a bit of time, is there an argument now to just go, do you know what, I'm going to send it, and if I go out, I go out?
I think so. I think you have to give it your all. You're probably not going to be as neat and tidy as you would be if you were just going through with a normal push. But if you're behind at this point, you have to give it everything. You're probably going to be messy, but you're just going to have to manage it and get away with the errors.
Who won the stage, John? I know you noted it down. I'm just going to get on the paperwork here. Go on, John. It was Matasia, wasn't it, with the win?
No, it was Pesh.
It was Pesh, sorry.
Yeah.
Pesh with the win. Who was second? Iwata.
Yeah, and then Pankinen.
Pankinen. So where was Matasia? Was he in? Was he?
Oh, I think I've messed up my times a
That's
little bit.
Good.
I think he was a 41. He was a 41.4.
This is called live maths with Andrew and John. This is for all you kids who are stuck at home, studying from home. School reopens here in the UK on March the 8th. In the meantime, me and John Armstrong can give you some live maths, and you too can get an average maths GCSE score. Well, we're going to have a look at the results on screen. That's handy. See, this is why there are people who are better than me and John at their jobs who are in the other room. There we go. Pesh. Okay, so let's make a little note of this. You're welcome to do the same at home. Pesh with the win. Look at that on the right-hand side, plus 0.051. So that's half a tenth. Basically, is the gap between Pesh and Iwata. P3 was Pankinen, and Pankinen is 1/10 of a second back. That's not even a brush with a bank. It's nothing. Matasia only 0.8. So, I mean, it is just insanely close between them. I'm just going to note that down. 0.8. 0.8 for Matasia is 0.1 for Pankinen. I mean, that's just incredible. And actually, Ardizone. So, sorry, Nicolo Ardizone, only 0.9. So, Ardizone is only 0.9 behind as well. I mean, it's just less than a second between the top 5 drivers on the first stage. Brilliant. Theo Rochelle, unfortunately, +9 on that one. So, yeah, 0.9 of a second between the top 5. Thanks, guys, for putting the times back up on the screen. Insane. And 1/10 of a second between the top 3. Wow.
I think we're going to see these gaps increase now because the guys obviously knew this was the first stage. They probably put the most effort into this stage in terms of practice. So I think we'll see that we'll see bigger gaps now.
It makes me nervous, but as well, the thing here, if this carries on like this, bear in mind that only the top 3 go through to that stage 5, John. If it stays as close as this, you could be missing out on a shot at the world title by 1/10 of a second.
I think that's probably going to be the most gutting thing today, is not getting through.
Not making the top 3.
Yeah, I think so.
Once you make the top 3, you can risk it for a biscuit.
You're guaranteed a trophy.
Yeah. What is it we do is if we make the top 3?
No lift for nothing.
No lift for nothing if you make the top 3. Jared Pesh, bottom right of your screen, is your current leader by 0.5 of a second.
Long stage. That's what we like to see.
So, yes, of course, 8 sectors down the left-hand side. Right, okay, so John, trick in Monty is obviously grip. In Sweden, for me, the hardest thing is visually seeing where the edge of the stages are, because it's white on white, but also knowing you can touch the banks a bit, but you can get sucked in if you touch it too much. Yeah,
100%. In real life, the drivers use yellow tinted glasses to try and help define the edge of the road, but what some of the guys could have done is adjusted their graphic settings for the contrast. Either way, probably darker, so they would help define the edge of the road.
Can you, if you were to use the yellow glasses at home looking at the screen, does it work in the same way? Have you ever tried it?
I'm not sure. I've never tried it, but
there's a YouTube video for John Armstrong's channel. That'll be up
we
soon.
Could give that a go.
We'll be doing it on Traction if you don't do it. So
we could give it a go, but I'm not sure if it'll have the same effect. But as you can see, there's a lot of shading under the trees here, which helps define the road too. But you see Jared Pesh absolutely going for it here.
So this is the thing as well, the bumps there, and as you're now with Pankinen, who appears to lead according to the right side. I think the gaps here as well are slightly bigger. You could see there the difference between an R5 and a Group A. So the Group A is bouncing down that piece of road, and that's something I struggle with the Group A cars as well in Argentina. You always find yourself raising the ride height to try to lose some of the bumps.
Yeah, that's it. You have to raise the ride height to have a bit more distance and travel. Yeah, because the more modern rally cars, like the R5s, have more travel on the suspension, whereas these older cars don't. And like like you said, you can see these cars bouncing around like a bunny rabbit at the minute.
Perfect touch of the bank there for Pankinen on the inside again, just enough to put a dusting of snow up over the front right headlight, but just enough to rotate the car in. Theo Rochelle is off the back of the pack again, unfortunately, so I think maybe losing a little bit too much time. This is Matasia again, we're seeing.
This is such a high-speed section right now, flat out in 6th gear. On the limiter as well, on the limiter in 6th. Amazing now into the right-hander, but you can carry lots of speed. And this is a flat left.
Armstrong knows his way around, doesn't he? Wrote the notes, of course, for these stages.
Got a tricky right-hander coming up now over a crest. It sort of keeps going round and tightens.
Here?
Yeah. It tightens on this crest a little bit, but there's another corner afterwards which looks similar. And that's the thing with Sweden, because everything is white, it's very hard to learn the track.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it is.
This is a trickier corner there.
Yeah, double crest with a dip in the middle. I mean, yeah, just outrageous how good these guys are. Kazuho Iwata, currently P3 on this stage, but the left-hand side of your screen will tell you just how close it is between these guys. Actually P4, because in front of him, Pesh and Pankinen are swapping places, while Matasia seems to be leading. Saw Pankinen leading at the start of the stage. Matasia, remember, was just 0.8 of a second back. And we are now, who's that's dropped out the back of the pack? Nicolo Ardizone has dropped out the back of the pack of 4. So Ardizone, who was just 0.9 off the leader, may have lost a little bit of time here. So are we now seeing the difference? Theo Rochelle too far back, and maybe the first driver, I think, that is unlikely to make the top 3. Still done brilliantly, John, to get to this level. It's just insane to qualify for a final.
Definitely, this is the elite of the elite, and these guys are just going absolutely flat out. It's all about the tenths here, and any mistake is just punished.
Ardizone's gone further back, so Nicolo Ardizone with another mistake now.
Maybe a puncher, who knows?
Yeah, could be dropping time due to that, true. John, how much time would you need, honestly, to get onto the pace of these guys? Because I know you play the game a lot, but I don't think you're playing as much as these guys are at the minute, are you?
No, definitely. I'm not practicing like these guys. For an esports final, they're going to be, their whole life revolves around this, what we're seeing today. They've been practicing as much as they can over the last week. Probably 8 hours a day is sort of the measure that I normally give. Massive jump. That was amazing.
Crowd cheering for that one in the background. That's what we like to see. WRC, of course, up in the Arctic this weekend. Fighting it out. Rally Sweden, unfortunately, was cancelled due to COVID-19. So Finland's organisers took over and organised a second Arctic rally. In fact, they've run the rally twice, haven't they, in the space of a few weeks?
Yeah, they're using some of the same roads. I think there's a little bit of damage on them, but of course, with the ice over the top of the surface, it doesn't really matter as much.
Matasia, bottom right, not wearing gloves. We've been watching the guys practice here in the studio. We're able to see some of their practice feeds. And one of the drivers was actually wearing woolen gloves to practice.
Must have been a little bit cold, I think.
Yeah. It was in winter, I think, wasn't
it?
Yeah. Coming towards the end of the stage now. Lucas Matasia leading in the yellow Impreza. There is the finish. I think he's taken it. Pankinen maybe. Super close between them. Pesh showing now at the top of the screen. That's how close it is. You're seeing Nicolo Ardizone approach the finish. Theo Rochelle just a few seconds further back. You're on board with Rochelle now.
See, he's not even that far off them, but it's just a lot more than the rest of the pack.
Coming round to the timing, and there it is. So Matasia takes it, 1.2 seconds. So Matasia, I think, will move into the lead with that, because he was, how far back was Matasia? Looking at my notes, he was just 0.8 back. So 13.2. So we've got Matasia, Pankinen, Pesh, Iwata. So Matasia, Pankinen, we're just making notes, Pesh and Iwata. So at the moment, I mean, UNIP had a third and a second. We've got Matasia with a fourth and a first. Jared Pesh with a first and a third. I mean, it really, but the thing is, we'll get the times up on screen in a minute. We'll get the times up and we'll be able to look back and see what the gaps were. But I say 1.2 back, Matasia was 0.8 back and won that stage by 1.2. And he's managed, though, so he'll take the lead by 0.4 of a second, I think. Right. Have a look at this stuff from Thrustmaster while we do more maths. So we're getting the accumulative results ready for you after stage 1 and stage 2. Of course, they've been to Monaco, Monte Carlo. Now they've been up in Rally Sweden. So we're done with the snow and ice. We're going to be moving on next to New Zealand. And we're actually following the career of Colin McRae in that 1995 season when he won the World Championship. He retired in Monaco, Monte. I remember him sliding off the road on the right-hand side of the road, wasn't it, in the dark. I remember seeing a telegraph pole. Sweden, of course, the Imprezas all had problems with the engine, so that they didn't have a good rally there. And McRae had won that the 2 previous seasons, but we're heading to New Zealand where he absolutely smashed it. And I think New Zealand was where he won his first rally as well in the Legacy.
It was in the Legacy, yeah.
So yeah, following the career of a hero and a career that you can play in Dirt Rally 2.0 as well. There's some great challenges in that, which was a late addition to the game, and it's really good fun. So have a look if you haven't already. Let's take a look at the stage times after stage 2. These are our overall standings. Lucas Matejka does indeed lead. He leads by just 0.5 of a second, so I'm going to have to scribble stuff out now. Matejka has gone into the P1, and he is Pankinen is P2 plus 0.5. Who's third? Third is Pesh. So this is live maths, plus 1.2. And then we've got Iwata, 1.4. So Artie's own looks. Theo Rochelle, unfortunately, plus 36. So he's lost 26 seconds in that one. We didn't see what happened. Nicola Artizone was bang on the pace in the first stage, but has dropped further back. So for me, actually now, John, this is much more about who of those top 4 makes a mistake, because there's 1.4 seconds separating the top 4 with 2 stages to go. We're good now, I think, with that. So 1.4 seconds between the top 4 down to Iwata. With Artizone and Rochelle being further down now, really this is about survival. And this, again, it's a tactical decision now. Do you fight your way into the top 3, or do you hope that one of the other guys blinks first? Right now, we haven't seen any blinking at all from, from Iwata, Matejka, Pankinen, or Pesh.
Yeah, that's it. And don't forget, they're going to want to go last into that final stage. So they have that advantage of...
So you think it's worth...
I think they're going to go for this and keep going flat out. Of course, maybe Jard Petch and Kazuna Koda, they're fighting each other, so they'll be happy if one of those gets in, I think, to the top 3 to go through to the final stage.
So, okay, Artizone and Rochelle slightly further off. But bear in mind, if 2 more people make a mistake... then it gets to the point of which of those guys has made the least mistakes or lost a terminal damage as well, which can see you straight off the pace instantly. So this is by no means over, and those guys must continue to push. We are on board with Una Pankinen. This is the stage which I had a crack at the other day several times on traction. Pankinen off the line, so you've got a left and a right chucking into there. Look at the cut he takes. Damn you, Pankinen. I wish I'd seen that the other day. That's a huge cut.
Huge cut, and obviously that's just opening up the radius of the corner so he can carry more speed through it.
And he does exactly what that. So this is the tricky bit now. You come down through a 6 right tight to the 3, but look at that. Look at the grip he's got, even in the wet.
Is this the corner you crashed on? I think it is.
Oh, straight over the fence there, mate. Yeah, 2 right. As we went in, I said, this is a 2 right. It tightens through the car over the fence. So don't co-drive for me, I think it's the top tip there.
You're quite right in saying, Andrew, that he's got a lot of grip here, and that's probably down to the setup that he's managed to figure out for this car on this stage.
Huge grip for me. I say I played this the other day, and I'll tell you what else he's got. Is a much better perception of the awareness of the car, and that's something I'm working on. I think, you know for a fact, John, I played chase camera for a long, long time. I know that's the devil to esports players, but even Oliver Solberg plays chase cam. You know, some people like to be able to see the car. When you can see the car, you have a very obvious perception of the width compared to the stage. And swapping to bonnet cam as I have since I've been using the wheel, definitely, for me, much better, much more immersive. But trying to figure out just how much space you've got to the right here and to the left. Crest, over to the left. This is where I ran up the bank. You see what I mean? Like, he's just using every single inch. That perception of the width of the car is bang on. That's a lot of practice for me.
Definitely, and I think that's the advantage of having a smaller monitor, is that you can, in your field of view, you can see each corner of the bonnet a lot easier if you've got a small monitor.
Got you.
So that's why it's an advantage to have a small monitor. But yeah, I think it's why we see them use bonnet cam as well, because no one's using the cockpit camera.
I don't like the cockpit camera because it's offset to the side as well.
And it's very hard to judge your corners. Of how
so you use the bonnet camera?
If I want to go absolutely maximum speed, then I'll probably go for the bonnet camera, but I found that I can be just as fast with the VR.
Yeah, you
headset.
see that? Yeah, I do like a bit of VR, I have to say. Yeah, but for me, VR is good because you can look through the corner.
Yeah.
So when you get too sideways, or even not too sideways, you're looking down the line. And in a real car, again, your eyes, you look where you want the car to go. Don't look at the tree, you will hit the tree.
Yeah, you're always following the road where you want to go. You're seeing the guys coming up here to...
Yeah, 2 left, this is into a 2 right, on board Matasia. A couple of big cuts. Who's off the back there? It's Rochelle and Ardizone again, isn't it, on the left-hand side, John?
Yes, it is Rochelle and Ardizone. Yep.
So our top 4 still pretty close together. Kazuho Iwata is in P3 and he was in P4, but not by much. So Iwata would like, wouldn't he, to overcome Pesh if he can at this point. Or was Pesh leading? No, Pesh wasn't. It was Matasia was leading from Pankin and Pesh was in 3rd. So yeah, there was only 2/10 of a second between Iwata and Pesh. So this, remember, the top 3 get to fight for the world title. The others are going home in 1 stage time.
It's Pankinen and they're still swapping places at the moment. Pankinen and Matasia just coming into the final corner now.
Who's going to get it? Watching the right-hand side, couldn't be closer between them. So it looks like it's Matasia, Pankin and Pesh. No, so sorry, P2 looks like it might have gone to Iwata. What's the timing going to say at the end of the stage? Rochelle and Ardizone were closer that time, but again, there is 1.4 seconds between the top 4, and Iwata was 9/10 of a second ahead of Pesh. I think Pesh made a mistake there, so Iwata is going to move into the top 3. Pankinen is 2/10 of a second quicker than Matasia, so it's Pankinen, Matasia, Iwata. I'm going to wait until we get the accumulative times written down. So 3, maybe a time mistake there from Pesh, who at the moment will have handed his place in the final to Iwata. But he hasn't, because we've got a stage now coming up in Spain on tarmac. So we're now switching from loose or icy conditions onto tar, and that may play into other drivers' hands. So obviously, nothing over yet, John, but a fascinating battle for that last place well, for all of them. Any of these guys could make one mistake and they're out instantly.
100%. It's just so close still to call it. And there's only, 3/10 of a second between first and second now. It's so close. But I do think that Iwata is a bit of a tarmac expert, and I think Jared Pesh isn't as much of a fan of tarmac as what he is of the gravel. So we'll see. Maybe that'll play out not so good for him.
Pressure is on then for this final stage in, if you want to call this the qualifying section of the final, I suppose. Top 3 drivers are going to go through to stage 5, which is Great Britain, Sweet Lamb in the Impreza, of course, where McRae won the World Championship with an amazing fight back from a puncture. I remember them straightening up the strut with the garden post. I think we spoke about this even last time on the show. It was a brilliant event. He came back from so far back and just he destroyed everyone. Broke the morale of Carlos Sainz's teammate, who, of course, in Spain, which is where we're heading next. Spain is where Carlos Sainz was, team orders went in his favour. McRae was leading. He was told to slow down by the team. The team was standing in the road. There's a famous piece of footage of one of ProDrive staff doing this, and McRae just going lit through, wasn't he? And he gave up the time in a time control afterwards, and then he kicked a bin in the service area. Was not happy. So we're going to Spain. Who's going to be not happy? Let's see the standings as we head on to the tarmac of Catalonia. There it is. 2.4 seconds separate the top 4. So Ardizone and Rochelle, unless one of those front guys makes a big mistake, they're not going to make it. But any of those top 4 could make it or not at this point. Lucas Matasia is leading, so I'm just going to make a quick note of this, and he is leading by not very much. Pankinen is in P2. And Pankinen, the current reigning champion, is plus 0.3 of a second. So there's nothing in it. Iwata is plus 1.7. And he is in P3. And Pesh is in P4. He is plus 2.4. So he is just 7/10 of a second. Yes, 7/10 of a second behind. So basically, there are 7/10 of a second, I say, between Iwata and Pesh. Iwata and Pesh, if you like, is who the battle is between, but I'm afraid 2.4 seconds is nowhere near enough for either Matasia or Pankinen to be chilling. We are not chilling with a 2.4 second lead, are we?
No, it's way too close. This is anyone's in the top 4 to take first place, but no one can relax here. They all have to go for it in this last stage, because if you back off a little bit, it's very easy to slip down and lose 2.4 seconds and you're in 4th place, not going through the top 3.
And just like in real life, if you back off, it doesn't work. The car doesn't feel right. And by that, I mean the way the car feels when you push on the limit. If you're not on the limit, it doesn't feel right. But also in your head, if you start backing off, how many times have you seen a driver with a minute and 15 lead do the dumbest thing ever? And then you think, how did that happen?
Sometimes when you back off too much, you drop your concentration, and then it's very easy for little mistakes to creep into your driving, or you mishear a pace note, or you just don't hear a piece of information. So it's crucial these guys just give it absolutely everything in this last stage before the super special stage.
Okay, I was going to ask John who his money's on, but it's not fair, so I'm not going to do that because we've got 4 drivers. It's too close between them, and to be honest with you, I'll tell you what, I can't pick one.
Me either. I think anyone here can come out in first place, and anyone can be dropped out from going through. So yeah, they need to go for it, flat out.
There you go. Okay, so we're switching to tarmac, which is obviously a completely different discipline. You're looking at much smoother, smaller steering inputs here. Again, this is one of the stages I played the other day on traction. My first attempt at the stage, I was throwing the car off the road everywhere because I'd been playing gravel for an hour and a half, 2 hours. And John, it's just so much smoother. My steering inputs went down from 90 degrees to 10 to 20 degrees.
Yeah, that's it. Every little input you put into the steering is going to have a much quicker reaction on tarmac than it is on gravel. So the guys have to be really careful now. And whoever can make the transition from the stage previous on gravel to the tarmac driving will probably come out on top here, because it's not an easy thing to do.
Pesh beautifully into some of these corners, but to me, John, he's almost double pedalling. When he came in through, and by that I mean keeping the throttle on along with the brake, so left foot braking in a rally car, you do, obviously you cross over the inputs nearly all the time in a rally car, and that means as the brake is coming on, the throttle's coming off, and the 2 pedals are up and down opposite each other. You understand what I mean, where it sounds like he's staying on the throttle and on the brake, almost to keep the car settled?
Yeah, and maybe he thinks that that's going to give him a bit more of a quicker response from the engine whenever he's going through the corner once he's through the apex again, so that could be why he's keeping the throttle on.
It works when you go go-karting at a go-kart centre where the go-karts aren't particularly quick. Double pedalling can work there sometimes. But interesting. Ardizone at the top of the table, and that must be so frustrating. Theo Rochelle, is Rochelle in the mix? Maybe not. Rochelle must be P6 unless he's pulled the plug before this stage.
This is super close, isn't it? They're just swapping, like up and down. It's crazy.
Funnily enough, Pankinen at the back, and Pankinen at the moment is in Pankinen's in P2, just 0.3 of a second off our leader Matasia. You're with Kazuho Iwata. Japanese driver leading. Can Iwata come back here? Did we think Iwata was a tarmac specialist?
I did.
Sure
he's very strong on
and
tarmac.
he plays other tarmacs, doesn't he? I'm sure, which are tarmac focused. Super accurate, not dropping a wheel off the side of the road. John, you know, in real life or in game, you drop a wheel off the side of the road and you're affecting the grip on that corner of the car. Oh, Iwata right out to the barrier at the outside. Just a glance. Can't beat a bit of turbo wastegate from a 555 Impreza now, can you?
It sounds beautiful. The sounds of Dirt Rally 2.0 are just amazing. It sounds so good and realistic.
Rochelle is in there. Look, Rochelle's still in there in P6. Ardizone has dropped to P5. But to be honest with you, unless those front 4 make a mistake, this is all about who's going to make it through. Jared Pesh is in P4. So Pesh was 4th and was 2.4 seconds back. Pesh has got to beat Iwata here, and at the minute Iwata is leading, John.
Yeah, and Pesh, he's still 2nd. Iwata looks like he's got maybe a bit of a gap now to the rest of the field. So Pesh really going to have to just go absolutely maximum attack now, what's left of the sector.
He's swapping though between P2, P3 and P4, so Matasia, Pesh and Pankinen are so close together. But that's not going to be enough, because if Pesh could beat Pankinen and Matasia by a significant margin,
by 2 seconds, roughly.
He wouldn't need to beat
Iwata.
But Iwata is leading, which means that Pesh has got to beat them. He's got to beat Iwata. We're on board now with Pankinen. I wonder if we're not going to get to them before we're at the end of the stage. Here we go. Iwata's going to take this and maybe book a slot in the final 3. Crosses the line. Matasia. Oh, it's so close between them, but I think Iwata has done enough. He has. Kazuho Iwata takes the stage by a significant margin, 1.3 seconds. That's the biggest win so far, I think, in terms of stage time. And with that, the Japanese driver has secured a space in the top 3 with the guys who are directly behind him, Lucas Matasia and Yuna Pankinen. So the reigning world champion Pankinen goes through with his nemesis Matasia from the semi-finals, and Kazuho Iwata into the final 3 on his first appearance, his first attempt at a competition with Dirt Rally 2.0 at this level. We have our final 3. Jared Pesh missing out by a tiny margin. You've got to feel a bit sorry for Jared there, John. He did a brilliant job, and just 2.4 off after stage 3 was enough to make the difference then that Iwata got him on this one.
Yeah, it's absolutely... It's cruel, isn't it?
Yeah.
He doesn't get the chance to go to the final stage now. But like I said, Iwata is super strong on tarmac. That was a massive gap. We've seen him win that stage.
What was it, 1.3?
Yeah.
He was only 1.7 off the lead. I'm trying to think.
I think that will put him into second overall.
Pankinen was 0.3 back. I tell you, it was going to be close between him and Pankinen. I think Pankinen might hold on, but we're talking by a tenth of a second.
Yeah.
So it's going to be super close. The overalls after stage 4 are going to give us our top 3. In fact, they're going to give us also P4, 5, and 6. And I'm pretty sure Jared Pesh is going to get 4th. Just missed out on a trophy. Jared, unlucky, mate. And thank you for taking part. You've been a brilliant competitor. Jared, of course, took part as well in World RX's esports earlier on this year and was a great competitor there. Thank you so much for all your efforts with the game this year. It's really appreciated. We've then got, of course, Theo Rochelle, I think he's going to be P6, and Nicolo Ardizone is going to be P5. But we'll confirm that for you and the top 3 in what order they're going to be going into in the last stage after this. Well, thanks to our partners at Thrustmaster, of course, for sending all our finalists the wheels and pedal setups that they needed to go with the PCs. We've got everyone on PC because traditionally a LAN final we'd be doing that. And, of course, they're all at home. We needed them all on the same platform, and that was the decision that was taken. I'm looking at our finalists here and trying to figure... We've got the results. OK, here we go. Let's take a look at the top 6 then after stage 4. And this will give you your top 3. Pretty sure we know who they are. So P6, and finishing P6, Theo Rochelle. Theo, congratulations for making the final and thank you. Same to Nicolo Ardizone in P5. Jared Pesh missing out by 2.2 seconds. I say we already thank Jared, but unlucky, mate. Congratulations to our top 3 who go through to the last stage to fight it out. John was right. Kazuho Iwata with the win on tarmac has put himself ahead of the world champion Yuna Pankinen. Yuna is not going to have the advantage of sitting and watching how much risk those guys take. He's going to have to send it on his first run through Sweet Lamb and see if he can set a time which will be enough to hold off Iwata and Matasia. So Matasia will go last and will have seen what the Finnish current champion and the Japanese pretender to the crown can do before he sees whether or not he can take P1. The times are going to be reset to 0 and we are going to have an epic fight through an epic stage. Sweet Lamb in Wales, down into that stadium. Here's a good story for you. I forgot this one the other day. When I was in Sweet Lamb, there was a streaker in the bottom of the stadium. It was as cold as hell and it was raining and some mad rally fan streaked across the bottom of the stadium and you've never heard cheers like it. Rally fans they appreciated that. It was funny.
I've never seen a streaker in rallying before.
Mate, I've never seen one since. But what a dude. If I'd love to know who that is. If you know who that is on social media, hit me up because I want to send that guy like a big up. Yeah, how rad.
It's not like a football match either where you can throw him out of the stadium.
No.
He still has to stay at the
He
rally
probably
stage.
just disappeared into the woods afterwards to get his clothes back on and nobody knew who he was. But yeah, streaker in the bowl at Sweet Lamb.
That's crazy. I've never seen that before.
No.
Like in all my time of going to watch rallies or rallying.
See. I'm a bit older than John. You know, I don't think it's not really a thing anymore. Is it? There was one recently. I'm sure there was one.
It does happen, but
Yeah.
I've never personally seen it. But I've seen people where they moon
It's a good one,
drivers
isn't it?
and stuff.
We were there. I can't remember what year it was, and I did say this the other day. It was definitely it was WRC era, as in '97 onwards. And I was there with a rally school that I was working for as an instructor. We had an Impreza there, mocked up in in the colours of the rally school, and we were selling driving experiences for Christmas. And so we went to several different stages, but we were at Sweet Lamb that day, and it was brilliant. It was into the dark with the fireworks coming up. Obviously we'd been there. Would there have been 2 runs? I can't remember, maybe, but we'd been there all day. With the fans promoting this rally school, and say fireworks going off, streaker in the bottom of the thing, and the noise from McRae and Burns. Just a privilege. So lucky to be there.
Yeah, it's so amazing when you go to our home round of the World Championship and you've got British drivers at the top that we had in McRae and Burns. It was amazing back then.
What about if it heads across to Northern Ireland?
It'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Which the talk is, isn't it? Northern Ireland or Scotland potentially? I know
it's still.
Is it Bobby Willis?
Yeah, Bobby was speaking about he was speaking about this last night on a live stream, and nothing's confirmed yet. Obviously, they have to plan.
Was he on with Trevor last night?
Yeah,
Trevor
with Trevor Agnew. Yeah. So,
hey, Trev. I spoke to Trevor yesterday on the phone whilst walking my dog.
Brilliant. Trevor's a nice guy.
He's a legend. Production World Rally Champion with Martin Rowe.
Yeah.
Does a series of podcasts and videos as well on YouTube. All rally stuff. Some more good stories. I bet he's seen a streaker at an event.
I've been enjoying his Friday night streams.
Yeah.
He gets all the rally drivers on to tell their stories.
Vatnam was on the other week.
Mm-hmm.
So they're looking at getting the event over there. Obviously, it'd be a Tarmac event. Would you then be looking to raise the money to get up into a top? You must be, surely.
I don't know if I get into
maybe not a world car,
car.
but you can an R5 car.
An R5 car would be lovely to do my home rally of the World Championship. It'd be amazing, unbelievable. I couldn't think of anything better, to be honest.
No, I was going to say for you guys, for you Northern Irons, it would be. It's a terrible accent, I know. It would be great, wouldn't it?
Oh, it'd be amazing. I couldn't think of anything better. Just rocking up to a proper Irish rally stage as part of the World Championship in a proper car.
Rally Ireland was around 1 year. Was it 1 year or was it more?
2 years.
2 years.
2007 and 2009.
Which is where your love of the C4, I imagine, comes from, isn't it?
That era, yeah, but obviously going to spectate those Rally Ireland with Loeb dominating.
So here's a geeky one for you as well. I do love a geek out. Have you got the onboard DVD of Sebastian Loeb in the C4 and Rally Ireland?
Isn't it? It's in Donegal. It's not Rally Ireland.
Of course, it was the warm-up event.
Yeah.
Yes, John.
I don't have it. Do you have it?
Yeah, I've got it.
I'm going to have to steal that off you.
Okay, mate. Right, rally chat from me and John done. We are going to crown ourselves a world champion in the next 3 runs of this stage. You're going to see the drivers go through one by one. Now, Pankinen and John, we have plenty of time to chat this through. So you're going to watch Pankinen first. Then you're going to see Kazuho Iwata from Japan, and then finally on to Lucas Mateja, one by one. That ramps the pressure up. For them, probably it's not that different, John. For me, if this was a land final, it would be, because of the fact that you're there and you can see the guy next to you peering at you, literally from the rig next to you. What's he going to do? Is it just lit?
He's going to absolutely send it.
Oh, and there you go. Good example. That's a 2 right.
Yeah, and he's made a massive cut off a drop on the inside of the corner there. So, yeah, I think Pankinen's just going to absolutely give this everything. If he makes a mistake, I mean, that's the risk he's willing to take.
I mean, this is no lifting properly. This section for me is the harder part of the stage because, again, it's narrow. You've got a lot of crests and drops, and you've got a series of corners which are 3, 4, 3, 4, then suddenly a 2. This one goes around to the right and then left, doesn't it? It's just... Yeah,
it's all about carrying the momentum through every corner, because if you lift off a little bit on a corner or you have to slightly tweak your line than what you want to take, you lose that momentum up the next straight.
Look at the big cut on the left against. I'll tell you what, and a big cut on the right, fence down as well. You'll be getting a bill from the Forestry Commission for that, Una. He doesn't care right now. Oh, that was a huge risk.
Super committed, almost running out of road, but still going for it. And now, one of the most tricky corners in any rally game ever is coming up this right-hander over a crest. What's he going to do? Massive.
Pankinen is on a mission. No!
Oh, no!
Mistake! Pankinen, 2 sideways, too much risk, pulls it back. maybe lost half a second, but how much? Maybe a second. How much did he gain, John?
I don't know.
I would never take that. I'm looking at this and thinking I'm going to go home. Oh, and another big cut. Pankinen is like, don't cut. Mate, you talk about no lift for nothing. This is cut for everything.
Cut for everything, but the thing is, the two other guys are sitting watching this. They know that they can take it a little bit more easy now and just carry the speed and not make that mistake.
But then with the risks he's taking, can they? Because he's taking risks everywhere. You know, is he gaining a tenth everywhere to only lose half a second? Yes, they've seen one mistake, but I mean, okay, on the previous 4 stages, you're right, that one mistake would be enough to lose it. But for me, I mean, he's lit, he's on a mission.
He's definitely on a mission, and like you said, if he's making up a few tenths here and there across the whole stage, that might cancel out his mistake he's just made.
They would have been hoping, wouldn't they? Not hoping, well, yeah, maybe hoping your competitor goes off, to be honest. Again, knocks down the little flags on the inside that mark the don't cut with those blocks on the inside of that. Committed through this section, you know, this is like a real rally. I have to say, you know, those forestry sections are always cut up in deep mud, aren't they, when the trucks have been through. So committed into the two right again. He's hooking a wheel off everywhere here, John, absolutely everywhere.
You can see there the front inside wheel of the Subaru pitched into the air. And there's quite a lot of camber in wheels too, so you want to stick your car on the inside of the corner, hug the inside of the camber, because if you fall off the other side of the camber, you're losing time.
Backs it in perfectly. That's nice downhill left-hander. Now there's a flat junction at the top here, so watch this. It's a kink right, kink left into a 3 left.
There's a lot of cutting opportunity here in the Muirland.
Either side after this junction is it?
And I'm wondering if he's tempted after the mistake he's just made to take these cuts. And
he does.
He's not hugely off the road.
No, that's fair enough for me. You know, I've seen McRae do more.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's
fair.
So
do I. Absolutely. That I said the other day when I took that stage about the cuts. And again, let's face it, the other drivers can watch this and take those cuts too. But
it's not like they're being penalised for not knowing.
Exactly. Pankinen fully off the throttle in the right-hander, completely off the throttle to help the car rotate. He's so patient. It's easy to be eager and get on the throttle too soon. Now he's coming up to a series of crests, then a left, and then downhill. And John, this downhill section is my nemesis in this stage. Prior to the right-hander, which is off camber, it's horrible.
It's so hard to pick a braking point for this hairpin at the bottom here now. And there's a jump just before your braking point, so that makes it even more difficult. Here's the jump. Now he's on the brakes. But perfect.
Oh, it just makes it look so easy. It's so frustrating for me. Right over the crest and the left now coming down again.
He'll jump this, he is. He's jumping it, yeah. You sort of jump a gap in that corner. It's hard to see from the angle there, but you're taking a risk in doing that.
Oh, yes. McRae style backed into the hairpin. Give Pankinen a medal. He's going to get a trophy anyway, but for me, he gets some sort of medal with the word Big Send. Hashtag McRae style, hashtag back it in. That was a perfect back it in, Scandi flick into the hairpin. It just reminds me of watching this brilliant sport back in the day when these cars were at the top of the world.
Oh, he's made another slight mistake.
He's rolled it.
Oh, he keeps going.
Hairpin, handbrake in. Pankinen is in full send mode. He's got away with 2 mistakes now. The front of the Impreza is bent in a very Colin McRae style. Round the left-hander. Now he's going to flick it to the right, up and over the crest. He's got just a few corners to go. Pankinen has taken every risk in the book. Through the river now, up on 2 wheels again, almost into the gate post on the outside. Coming up towards the finish line, he's got the left and the right to go. On a mission, did he take too many risks? Over the line. Okay, hand up to the head. He's not sure. It's a 5:44. Me and John are writing that down right now. 5:44.547.
He is so lucky, though, that
both times
when he did roll, he landed back in his wheels again. But you were saying he was so...
It was so McRae style, mate.
The whole stage was McRae style, but do you remember Colin McRae in the X Games when he rolled and kept going in the same motion? Same thing again.
The clip of McRae at the X Games is wonderful, and incidentally, they've still got the bonnet, or the hood if you're from America, of the No Fear backed Impreza on the wall over in America at Subaru Motorsports USA, Vermont Sports Car, who run that team. They've still got the bonnet up on the wall, and that is just so awesome, I think. It's a legendary bit of footage. Go and see, find the guy who's filmed it from the crowd, because when McRae rolls, the Americans, rally was pretty new to them anyway in terms of being, it's been there a long time, but in terms of being a sport that was in the public eye, and the noise the crowd makes when McRae lands back on his wheels will put their hairs on the back of your neck right up. It's it's ace. And that drive from Pankinen was ace. Okay, Pankinen has left nothing on the table. He's made 2 mistakes. What's the first one worth? Have a guess. It doesn't matter.
I think about a second.
You think a second. So 2 mistakes. So
I think he's lost at least 2 seconds, if not more.
Okay, but how much risk has Pankinen taken for you? If you were doing that stage and you were going, right, I'm trying to set the time at the top of the leaderboard in the world standings in the game, how much risk has he taken there? For me, it's everything.
He's put everything on the table, but he knew he had to do that because he's running first. He's got nothing to compare against, so he was trying to nail that stage as perfect as he could. Unfortunately, he did make those 2 mistakes, but they weren't huge mistakes where he was stopped stationary for a long time.
Didn't Pankinen? I think Pankinen made a mistake last year in the final. I think he made a mistake.
He did. I think he had a spin,
he did
didn't
make
he?
a mistake, yeah. So Pankinen made a mistake last year.
And still won.
Yes. Is Pankinen quick enough to retain the World Championship title, World Series champion in Dirt Rally 2.0 with that amazing run? The hairpin, skins, meds, gold meds. Yes, Unip. Love it. That was great.
But
That was mega.
It was amazing what he just done. And he,
Yeah.
he gave us something spectacular to watch, which is what we want to see and everyone watching wants to see, is someone going absolutely flat out, giving it everything, and if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out.
What emojis would you use for that? I'd go that one, definitely.
I think the mind-blowing
yeah,
emoji.
fire, I'd have that emoji in there too. Maybe
Yeah.
the explosion one,
Yeah.
you know?
I could think of a few others too, but
Be a lot of emojis, wouldn't there?
yeah.
Sometimes I only like to use 3, particularly in WhatsApp, so that you get them bigger then. It's more impact.
You don't want to use too many emojis though, because then
No, but then when there's something like that happens, it's so rad that you're like, I'd need to like ratify this with a
so
lot of emojis.
no emoji limit there.
No, I don't think so.
No,
It's
okay.
just which emoji you put, you know, or unless you want it, maybe you go for 3 because then they're bigger.
Yeah.
These are the things that matter. We're just waiting for the next car. Basically, it's just truth be told. But if your emoji game's not strong, you're not paying. You know, these things. People like me and John are really cool. Obviously, I imagine we're among the coolest people you've ever seen. We put a lot of thought into emojis, don't we, John?
Yeah, I like to select them very carefully, but I think I rate I don't know if it's GIF or GIFs. What do you
GIF.
GIF? Yeah, GIF. I rate them more highly, I think.
Do you?
I find them more
I
entertaining.
love a GIF, but I just can't be hassled with finding a GIF.
It's quite easy. Every message app you can search for it now, pretty much.
Yeah.
I love a good.
So
a
people
good GIF.
find really good GIFs, and it always frustrates me they find better GIFs than me. I don't know if it's they just know where
you
to
need
look.
to up your GIF game.
Okay, I do. Now, meme. Is it a meme or is it a meme?
Meme
Meme.
or meme.
Yeah, I do like them. I've never made one.
No, they're too hard to make. You need like Photoshop and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's too hard.
John and Andrew's run through the most important social media skills you possibly have. Earlier on, we did GCSE maths for you. That is advanced. You could, with those skills, you could apply for a job as a social media manager. You won't get it, but you could put on there that you watched the Dirt Rally 2.0 course on memes, emojis, and GIFs. Thank us later. I'd have that trophy there for that. We are still waiting. I don't know what out of interest what they're doing. I mean, are they changing the livery by hand or something on the PC? I mean, it's just like,
He's got the car jacked up and
yeah, it's
kicking the
underneath it.
dampers.
Genuinely, who are we waiting for?
Iwata.
Iwata, Kazuo Iwata. Okay, fair
Bit of
enough.
mind games going on, I think.
That's not a bad one. That's happened in real life. You wait away from the time control, and either your competitor is on the line looking for you in the mirror. In real life, this is waiting to see, and you look in the mirror, you're thinking he's not there, he's not coming. And at that point, you're like, yes, he's not coming. And then you roll up behind them, and they go, he is coming. And it's a great little mind game, that. Or the other one that I know a Swedish driver did, no names. He got out the car to go to the bathroom in the forest and left the car door open on purpose in the road section so the driver couldn't get to the point where they're supposed to check in, just to give them a little bit of a head twist.
I think that's a step too far. That's
yeah, but if someone did it to you, would that make you livid?
It's happened before.
Right, I agree it's a step too far, but it's... So is Kazuo Iwata sitting in Japan absolutely ready to go?
Someone blocked him into the stage where he just sat there.
He's not there. Iwata... Okay, so Kazuo Iwata, to be fair, is doing something to his PC. He may have a technical issue. He's going to have to run next, isn't he, guys? Can I confirm we will wait for him, won't we, to a certain extent, because we want we want to run them in reverse. Well, there we go.
Maybe this is his strategy.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. We've just been told by our producer Luke, that it's midnight in Japan. Now,
oh, no.
You're not going to be delaying at that time of day, are you?
You're going to want to get on with it and get it over and done with.
All day he's been waiting. I don't like waiting, so I get terribly nervous before competition if it matters, and I don't like it right until the point where I'm doing it. And actually, then I don't really enjoy the competition quite often. I enjoy the competition when it's finished. You know, when you look back at a rally and you're like, that was awesome.
I know what you mean, yeah. It's like
the anticipation, you just want to get going. Scrutineering, paperwork, hanging around, I hate it. And it's just like, I just want to get in the car and go. And then the second you leave the service area and you start, doing things like scrubbing off tyres and warming up brakes on the run to the first stage.
Stressed, aren't you?
Yeah, and then you get to the first stage and the lights are on and you're just full of adrenaline and the lights go out one by one and then you go. And the second you go, everything falls away. And it's one of my favourite things about competition is that anything that you were thinking about or worrying about or is on your mind is gone because you sole competition on that. And the waiting is awful. And Kazuho has had to wait the longest.
Yeah, 100%. Like
all day.
Once you get on the stage, nothing else in the world matters. And that's the best feeling in the world.
Yeah, it is. It's great. If any other thoughts are creeping into your head, you have to check yourself because
100%. Yeah.
You can't be thinking. Occasionally, if I'm playing dirt, I've got to be honest. I might get distracted by
the dog.
Yeah, the dog. My wife going home from work. What I'm going to have at lunch. You just or if you, I know. But then I think there are ways to immerse yourself more in the game. Definitely a wheel. Definitely a seat set up, but also headphones, and that's something I need to up my game on at home because these guys are all doing it. Obviously, it completely puts you in the game and nowhere else.
Yeah.
We've got some highlights for you from Joona Pankkinen's run. So take a look at this, and we'll talk you through them as we go. So this is Joona Pankkinen on his.
Oh, no.
Oh, look at that!
Oh no!
Whoa! Did you see that?
That was a ghost.
We got a poltergeist in it. So what? Dirt Rally 2.0, the deluxe edition, by the way, just threw itself off the. Well, it did a Pankkinen. Threw itself off the road. Has broken the rear wing on the
spoiler off it.
Honestly. And that
no.
Is that yours?
No, it's one of the guys.
Oh, denied. I think it was broken.
We need some super glue.
Do we?
Yeah.
Let's look at the clip from Pankkinen while we source some super glue and also our Japanese driver. Here's Pankkinen on that last one. So this is the half spin.
He just tapped the bank, which turned the car around on him.
He did well. That was the send into the hairpin, which for me was just lovely. Do you know what, that first one was not enough? He was so unlucky there, and then Converse was so lucky because the point at which the bank goes steep there as well.
But the thing is, he's coming into a dead stop hairpin, so he's not losing the momentum. He should be already on the brakes there.
I don't think Pankkinen has lost much time there. If I'm Iwata or Mateja, I'm knowing I'm going to have to light it.
You're going to have to go for it still.
They're going to have to lick the stamp and send it. It's going to have to be done, isn't it?
Yeah, get Sandy.
Get Sandy. With hashtags. Imagine all the hashtags and things that you could get from this show. Honestly, again.
Some of them you probably don't want. But
it's a shame. Anyway. Now we're done with all the modesty of how cool we are and what our brilliant skills are on GIFs, emojis, and all the other things which really matter in life. We're nearly ready for our friend Kazuho Iwata from Japan. midnight, maybe later now. We've been waiting a little bit longer. He's loading up and getting himself ready. Are we far away, guys? In the service area. So if this was real life, he'd be chucking a bit of pasta in as fast as he can. There'd be someone cleaning the number plates and the lights on the car, checking the fuel, wheel nuts, assuming you haven't done anything stupid and ripped a corner off the car. He's got a fresh car. And Kazuho Iwata at the bottom right of your screen. There he is with the gloves we mentioned earlier on. Iwata now for the World Championship title. World Series Dirt Rally 2.0. Pankkinen, top right of your screen. I imagine Pankkinen is watching the stream now because he'll want to see how Iwata gets on. I don't know that we're going to have any splits, are we, unfortunately, to see whether he's up or not, which I would have absolutely loved. But because because they're running effectively. They're running three separate times in the game, aren't they?
Yeah, so we don't even have a timer on the top left either to gauge where they are on the track and what time they've got. But I see Iwata is still sending it, carrying a lot of speed here, so he knows that he needs to keep up his performance.
Iwata is using, I would say, a very high rotation angle on the steering, John, in game. If you look at how small his input, okay, now he does a big input, but
it's still quite small. It's no more than 90 degrees.
Right, so what do you reckon? Maybe 260? Was it 270?
It could be probably 300, I would say, or,
really?
Or less. Yeah. We send it. Carry lots of speed over this crest. A little bit of a cut. Car gets light.
Same cut as Pankinen through there. He maybe took a bit more on the left-hand side. Pankinen, look at the top of the screen, still got his gloves on. They were green gloves, matching the Impreza livery.
Got this
through
big
here,
coming here.
Yeah, Pankinen took the fence down on the right-hand side. Does Iwata do the same? I reckon maybe not.
It doesn't look like he's carrying as much speed, but it might be deceptive and deceiving.
He's so tidy.
Yeah.
I thought that from earlier on today. He really is tidy. Pankinen now looks back across the other way. So Pankinen, I reckon, to put the stream up maybe on the screen in front of him. He's done now. He's the world champion twice, remember. He won in Dirt 4 when it was Rally and Rallycross. He won again last year.
So now Iwata's just past the place where Pankinen had his first incident.
Yeah.
And no mistakes for him.
Would you consider him to be up at the minute? I'd say yes.
I would say yes after not making the mistake.
Pankinen adjusting the camera into the right-hand side, past the traction branding which I broke the other day. First run through the stage. Through the long left.
Tricky corner that, it's off camber and it's quite long too, so you have to really get the car rotated.
And that's really the transition, isn't it, again, between two different types of road, from the open section back into the woods again. Wet conditions, it does make a difference, John. You know, I've tried the stages in both conditions, and it does make a big difference to the feeling of the car.
Definitely, you've got less traction going forward, you know, out of the exit of the corners and under braking too.
We've got the coming through now, the section on the left. It's tidy through here. Do you know what? It's so hard to judge because, as you say, Pankinen's driving style to me is more attacking. Pankinen is more of a McRae, and Iwata is more of a Burns. If you wanted to compare the two UK drivers, Scottish McRae and English Burns. Yeah,
we have no idea how he's doing right now. It doesn't look as fast, but we know that he's got those two mistakes in hand. If he's a totally clean run, then he's got a good chance of beating Pankinen.
Absolutely mistake-free. He's as tidy as Pankinen through there. That's mint, isn't it? Yeah. So close. Now up for okay. Now we get to see, this is the section where John said last time about the big cuts. You've got a 3 left and then you come down the hill and there's a series. After this right-hander, there's a series of junctions here, corners here where you can take a cut. Oh, mistake. Not such a big cut as Pankinen, I think, and a little bit of speed scrubbed off, John, but not much.
No, he's still going enough speed, taking almost the same line as Pankinen.
Oh, go on, lad.
Pitching the car with the nose up through the jump.
Knocks the arrow down on the inside, be a bit of tape training behind that car. That was always good when you're a spectator. You knew someone had been taking all the road and a little bit more. Down to the junction with the lights and the Jenny at it. As tidy through there or not?
I think it was just as good, yeah. I mean, it bogged down a little bit. He might have been better going a gear lower.
Look at Pankinen, the look on Pankinen's face. He
has no idea. He's the same as us.
It's so hard, isn't it? I'm looking to see his reaction afterwards, and I think that'll tell us a lot then about whether or not this tidy styles work. Iwata's inputs, and there are so many here down on the brakes. This is another tricky section. He's so late on the brakes, and yet it turns in perfectly. Now, down here, Pankinen took a big cut over the left-hand side of the road, jumped the gap. This next left-hander, he does the same. Okay, now this is where it was backed in beautifully by Pankinen. Later.
A lot straighter on the
he's half spin
too.
Almost, and has to turn back out of it. Not as quick through there for me as Pankinen.
Definitely, that's a couple of tenths lost there, but he's on the run down now into the bowl. Going to carry as much speed as he can, but try it. Oh, so close to the edge.
Is he going to be close to the edge at the bottom here? Because this is where Pankinen made the mistake. He's done the same. He rolls in the same place. End over end sideways. He rolls 4, 5, 6 times. Is he going to land back on his wheels? Iwata has to reset. 5 seconds gone, it's over. Kazuo Iwata has binned it at the bottom of the hill in
And
Sweet
he's got 2
Lamb.
punchers.
Oh,
Or at least 1 puncher as well.
nightmare for the Japanese driver. What a shame, John. That was such a tidy run. But Iwata has made a mistake in the exact same place as Joona Pankinen. Pankinen knows. Fist pump from Pankinen. He's trying to hold on to that world title. Fair enough. Iwata, unlucky, mate. Iwata up towards the finish line. Pankinen, look, rubs his hands together, puts them behind his head. Kazuo Iwata finishes the stage. We've got a slight delay on his zoom as he comes across at the bottom. Not so much emotion from the Japanese driver, but he will be disappointed, and it is a 5:58.9. Going to make a note of that, 5:58.9. Where is he on my
he lost
sheet?
about 10 seconds with the roll, and then he got a 4-second penalty as well.
That's just...
I can't believe it, though. The exact same corner.
No, I know. And
But
think...
it's such a tricky spot because you're coming down the hill and you have to pick a braking point. When you pick the braking point, you're going into the right-hander, and then you've got the water splash, which kicks the car up. And then after the water splash, if you're running wide, you've got to jump, which throws you out even further.
It's just, yeah,
It's a very tricky
It's
place.
really hard because the gate, you can't cut too much to the inside. Again, it's another one of those sections that, dare I say, I don't really enjoy because it's
one of those places where if you want to make up time, that's where you can do it.
Yeah.
Because normally, if you want to get through it there with no mistakes, you're going to take it back a little bit and make sure you get through without going wide. But the thing that makes that so tricky is the fact you're coming downhill, you're going through a set of gates, you've got a water splash,
So the
then
water
a
splashes,
jump.
the trouble with the water splash is if you don't have enough lock on, the water splash will do, and this is the same in real life, which is why the game's so good. Basically, a sump guard under the car protects the bottom of your engine, but it then, if you want to think of it like a boat, effectively it's a plane which leads to the floor of the car. So we're going to look at a replay. So have a look at this while we talk you through it. But John, you know what I mean? If you're going too fast, effectively your sump guard will surf you off to the outside.
It was a massive shunt as well, wasn't it?
1, 2,
You can hear the air going out of the tyre.
5.5. So he's had to hit reset there. Yeah, in fact, he did go end over end and then rolled.
That's a proper crash.
Go on, lad.
And we've seen drivers roll there in real life too. I think
Yeah.
it was Mikko Hirvonen rolled there in real
Did
life.
he?
Yeah.
Which car?
Focus.
See, John knows stuff about rallying.
So it is
we do
a
like
dangerous
it.
spot
We do
in
like
real life. And
Yeah, it is. But it's a great stage, Sweet Lamb. It is a great stage. Have you driven through it? It's not one I've had the pleasure of doing, I don't think, Sweet Lamb. Maybe a bit
I never done it in competition, but I done a thing called the Pirelli Star Driver Shootout.
Was that there?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it was held at Sweet Lamb, so
Yeah.
I have been there, but I don't really know it that well.
Yeah.
So what do we think? Is Matej going to take it?
So what I want to look at is the roll. How much was the? You say it was 4-second penalty for?
Yeah. So you take that out of it, he would have done a 54, which is still 10 slower than.
Yeah, but I'm just wondering, is the roll? But was there another? No, the 4 would have been the penalty for the reset, wouldn't it? So it's not a penalty for reset plus the 4. The 4 is the reset penalty, but the roll itself. You're still heading towards the apex. I don't know. I wonder if he was fast enough anyway. But he looked it to me. I don't know. And then you said there was a puncture, didn't you? Anyway,
we're never going to know, and it would be lovely if we could have a split system.
We might have to go back through that and digest the splits.
We could set them up side by side, and then we would know.
Yes, we might do that.
Yeah.
Would that might be a video. Right. Lucas Matejka, at the bottom right-hand side of your screen, is now the only driver who can deny Joona Pankinen, the reigning World Series champion in Dirt Rally 2.0, a third world title with Codemasters and their Dirt Game series. He won Dirt 4, Pankinen did. A mixture of rally and rallycross. Last year at the Autosport Show, he won Dirt Rally 2.0 World Series. And Lucas Matejka now at the bottom of your screen is the only man who can deny him a third World Championship title, a second World Series. Look at Pankinen, he's all fired up, he's all smiles at the top of the screen. Matejka's got to be nervous because in some ways, if Iwata had gone quicker, I think Matejka would be thinking, okay, I can do this. But to have seen Pankinen's run, the risks he took, and the fact that he got away with it, that's a champion's roll, we call that, where you have a small roll back onto your wheels with no damage. That's a champion's roll. and plenty of top drivers have had it. And it's kind of frustrating, isn't it, for Matejka? He'd love it if he could have... Imagine now if Matejka and Sim Pankinen and Iwata had had a roll and not recovered from it, he'd be laughing, but he's not.
He's still got a lot of pressure on his shoulders because he needs to go fast enough to beat Pankinen, and obviously he didn't lose that much time, like you said, Andrew, so it's... He won't be able to measure this. I think he's just going to go as fast as he can and try not to make the mistakes. And if he does that, he knows he's got it in the bag.
You mentioned earlier that they would probably have practiced the Monty stage the most to make sure that they were on the money when they left the first stage, and particularly because, of course, that is mixed surface. Everything else is one surface. It's either snow or tar or gravel. But how much have you practiced this stage? Because at the end of the day, it's actually the only one that matters once you're in there. I think similar line to Pankinen. Sorry, this was where Pankinen's first mistake was, wasn't it, John? Yeah, go on. How much have you practiced this?
I think this one would have been really one of the stages that they practiced the most as well, because like you said, this is the one that matters and the one that will make them champion or not. But yeah, he's got through that section where Pankinen made his first mistake, no problem. So see if he can keep it up now through the rest of the stage.
Beautiful through the traction hairpin. He's late on the throttle, but he's early on the apex, carrying the speed through. There's that off camber left, which he's perfect on again. Now it's a 90 right, in through a gate. Do not touch the gate. Big cut on the inside, bigger than Pankinen.
Yeah, it was really, really good, but so far it's been a super clean run, no mistakes, but this is such a tricky track to go flat out on it. There's so much things to catch you out.
Here's one for you. Lucas Matejka is in the final for the World Rallycross Championship later on today. If Matejka takes this, he could be double world champion, double World Series champion. He could unify the belts, as it were, and bring together both the Rallycross and the Rally titles in Dirt Rally 2.0. I mean, that's like undisputed champion of the world business,
honestly,
isn't it?
That would be absolutely amazing if he could achieve that.
Wouldn't it?
That would be such a good thing.
It would be mint. Come on, Lucas. But come on, Una as well. We can't have favourites. Una, for me, you know, he's the benchmark. He absolutely is the benchmark.
He's the Loeb or the OJ of,
he is,
of
isn't
this
he?
sport.
We've called him McRae already. I bet Una's loving us. We've called him McRae, OJ. I mean, but Matejka is trying to take that away. Matejka is trying to do a Tommy Mäkinen. He's trying to take it away from McRae on the last stage. And if you were McRae, Mäkinen was one of those guys that you had to fear, because he was another guy who could go 11 out of 10 and pull it off.
Yeah, 100%. It's all about making as little mistakes as possible, but going flat out at the same time.
Matejka's quick through there, John. See the weight transfer on the way into 90 right.
That's a lot of speed coming through there.
Really good. Pankinen not looking quite so chill at the minute. Matejka will know where the mistake was for both those drivers, but then do you back it off too much and end up losing? Oh, wow. Tension is building now. Una knows it. Top right of your screen, just chilling in his chair. Oh, my goodness me. The world champion, the reigning world champion, the current leader of Season 2 of the World Series is waiting for Matejka, who was so close to him in the qualifying stages. Matejka and Pankinen both came from PC, remember. They were in the same semi-final together. It was super close between them. Here's that downhill section into the braking zone. Here we go, John. Analyse this for us.
So he's going to take off in the air, braking, use a little bit of grass on the left to open up the entry into the corner. And then it's a long, fast, medium corner. And then we're coming down now into this bit where you can make a little bit of a cut over the left here.
Oh, hangs a wheel down the ditch on the right-hand side. Matejka is leaving it all on the line here. He backs it in Pankinen-McRae style. He is giving it the Tommy Mäkinen. Pankinen knows now it's maybe going to come down to this last run down the hill into the famous bowl in Sweet Lamb. This is where the fireworks are up in the sky if you're a World Rally Championship driver as you come down through the all-important water splash. Can he hold on? Matejka through the splash, on the bank! Same mistake! Back down onto the road, he doesn't roll. Matejka gets away with it. Into the hairpin now. He's chasing the time of Pankinen. The time is 5:44.547. Lucas Matejka has made a mistake, but he got away with it. Pankinen had 2 get-out-of-jail-free cards. Matejka's had 1. Up now over the crest into the water splash. Critically gets the gate right on the exit now. This for the World Series champion title. Pankinen shakes his head. Has Matejka done enough? There's the time on the right-hand side. 5:44.5. Who gets it? Oh, it's Matasia! Lucas Matasia is the World Series champion. Dirt Rally 2.0 takes it by just under 2 seconds. Pankinen is defeated. Thanks to roll. Matasia, he rolls his eyes. It's relief. It's a big grin. Head in his hands. What a drive, and he could still win the World Rallycross Championship title later on today. Lucas Matasia, what a drive. What a drive.
I'm speechless. I can't believe all three drivers made this mistake in the same place. Even
That's unreal.
After seeing each other.
2 seconds, like he must have done the work elsewhere. Obviously, we know he didn't have the half spin, so he'd maybe, you can hear the crowd in the background in game. I can. Wow. Lucas Matasia,
I think it would have been
Series
very
champion.
close if UNIP didn't have his 2 mistakes.
They all made that mistake. I don't know that there was much difference in UNIP's role and Matasia's up the bank. Maybe a tiny bit.
Probably a little bit extra penalty for UNIP whenever he had the roll as well. But I can't
tell
believe
you what, it
I can't-
delivers, doesn't it?
That's just like you couldn't write that stuff that they both. Like all three of them made a mistake in the water splash.
Right, next time, this is what we're going to work on for next time. We want splits through the stage, don't we?
Yeah,
Because
we do,
you want to see that ebb and flow, because you could see Una was like us. He knew it was a good run. He knew it was a good run. And Matasia, for me, somehow was midpoint between Pankinen and Iwata in terms of style. You know, Iwata for me was a clinician.
Yeah, super smooth.
Yeah,
driver
Una
style.
like it's full send, and Una yes for the full send. That medal, you know, I'll send you an emoji of a medal later. Trophies for these three guys up behind John here. Left-hand side is the World Series Champion trophy, which is going to be heading the way of Lucas Matasia. Could we be putting 2 trophies in one box? He's in the World Rallycross Championship Esports Finals later on today. So he's had all that pressure and build up to this. He's won a World Championship. I'm practically shaking thinking about it. He's got to do it all again this afternoon. So do tune in at 5 p.m. Can Lucas Matasia unify the titles and become the undisputed champion of the world in Dirt Rally 2.0? That would be mega, wouldn't it?
It'd be such a nice story, wouldn't it? But he's got a lot of really good drivers to race in the Rallycross as well. So the Denalmer brothers.
Oh, it will be great. So join us for that. The middle trophy is going to head the way of Una Pankinen, the world champion who has missed out this time. Una, thank you so much for being a part of this again, because having the reigning champion in there it will mean all the more. And I hope Una will understand what I mean by this. It will mean all the more to Lucas to have won it from Una in a straight fight, and that's great. It's a brilliant bit of sport, and that's what we're here for. And the P3 trophy heading all the way out to Asia, out to Japan for Kazuho Iwata. Kazuho, thank you for staying up so late every time for the competition here in Europe. Wicked. I'm feeling really emotional about it all. It's just great. You can't beat a final. Can't beat a final.
That was amazing.
I think have we got an interview ready? We ready? Okay, Lucas, can you unmute your microphone, please, on Zoom? In the classic COVID-19 style, we need to unmute the microphone on Zoom so that we can hear Lucas Matasia. Lucas, can you hear us? Can he hear us? We can't hear him. Lucas Matasia, can you hear us? Oh, no, we want to talk to the world champion. He's chatting to someone, but we can't. Can you guys hear him in the gallery? Okay, not at the minute. We're working on whether or not someone's texting Lucas how to unmute on Zoom. It's a big problem this year. You know, it's
just part and parcel.
Like 2020 through 2021. You know, like you've got to unmute yourself. I did it the other day. You got to switch the camera. You have to even be let into a Zoom meeting now. It's all got terribly official, hasn't it? Your best bet is just FaceTime, to be honest. It's just so much easier. You know, if FaceTime comes up, you can ignore it or not. It's easy to answer. You can be anywhere. It's just great, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, depending on where you are. Yeah. Nobody wants to FaceTime in the shower.
Definitely not. No.
Like, try not to, you know. Okay, have you ever answered the FaceTime to your ear? Like, you answer
and someone's just looking at your ear there.
Yeah, my mum's done that. Cheers, Mum. Good mention from Mum. So we're going to see, are we going to be able to speak to Lucas, do you think? Okay, well, look, if we can't speak to him, we can speak to him later on. So maybe we'll speak to Lucas Matejka. If we don't speak to him in a minute, we could speak to him ahead of the Rallycross finals because he's going to be in that. So perhaps that's our best bet. As we'll see if we can line him up for the final later on today in Rallycross. Wow, wow, wow. Dirt Rally 2.0 delivering all the way. John, it's been an amazing series, hasn't it, Season 2? So I've been lucky enough as well to do Season 1, but also Dirt 4. I love it. It is a great game. It really, I know, it's easy for us to say that being involved with it, but I've always played the rally titles all my life. I love it, and it just delivered again today just amazing.
100%. It's so good to see the best players on this realistic game, going.
Can you believe how close it was?
Head to head, and there's only tenths between them, but then going into that last stage and just seeing them crack under the pressure and all making the same mistake.
It is
amazing. And
I would never feel bad about making that mistake again. The 3 best drivers in the world.
That's the champions' corner.
It is. Yeah, it's like the last corner in Canada F1 circuit. Yeah. That's the champions wall, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're not a champion till you
tap
the wall
water
there.
splash.
Yeah, Champions Water Splash. That's just been renamed. In fact, that can be some sort of an achievement, I imagine. If there's ever a future game, we want some sort of an achievement on the Sweetland Water Splash. Right, we're going to try one more time with Lucas. Let's see if we can have a chat with Lucas now. Here we go. Where is he? Lucas Matejka, can you hear me? Oh, we're still missing audio. Lucas, we still can't hear you, unfortunately, at this end. Look, Lucas, I know we'll be able to hear us. We're going to work on getting that fixed for later on today, and we'll see if we can have a chat with him. But Lucas, just from our point of view, massive congratulations from myself, John, Thrustmaster Traction, Dirt Rally 2.0, everybody involved in this, and I know from everybody watching at home, Lucas Matejka, the World Series champion for Dirt Rally 2.0, and he's got a chance of making it a double later on this afternoon. Thank you very much for watching. Thanks to the guys over in the gallery. Best wishes to Tom again from our team who's suffering at home at the minute. I hope you get well soon, mate. John, well done. Been a pleasure on the rally side. We've just got Rallycross to come later on today. So 5 p.m. UK time, you'll be able to join us for the finals of Dirt Rally 2.0 on the FA World Rallycross Championship. We'll leave you some highlights, and we will see you then after you take a look at the traction competition as well. Here you go. So Traction, you can win a PS5, an Xbox Series X and a gaming PC. All 3 of those go to you, and that will mean you have absolutely no excuse for not being one of the best drivers in the world, should we ever manage to run another one of these series. At Traction GG on all the social medias, and search for Traction GG on YouTube as well. You can see some content of me playing even worse than a World Champions. I think I crashed at the Champions Water Splash when I had a go at that as well. So enter that competition on Traction's social medias. Have a look at some highlights, and we'll see you at 5 p.m. later for World RX.
Hey guys, welcome to the video. Today I'm going to be starting a series that I've been asked about for quite a while on my Twitch streams, which is how to, basically my tips on how to drive different classes of cars. So today I'm going to break down in the first video in this series how to drive the 3 different classes of cars in Dirt Rally 2.0: front wheel drive, all-wheel drive, and rear wheel drive. Hope you guys like it. So for a quick little demonstration of how to drive these different classes, I'm going to go into free roam, and I'm going to go to the Dirtfish Rally School, which I highly suggest for everybody starting the game to go into here, pick a car. It doesn't really matter. Whatever your favorite car is, go into free roam and just play around. You'll really get a sense of how the car is going to react and handle. And you can do this over and over and over for as long as you feel. If there's a new technique you want to learn, this is a great way to do it. I'm going to start with the Lancia because I feel that most people, this is probably going to be the car that they start playing the game with. I believe it's one of the very first cars that's unlocked. So I'm just going to give you some tips and on how front wheel drive cars handle and how to properly drive them. So we're in our menu. I'm going to go down to Tune Vehicle. I'm going to make sure, okay, this is the bone stock setup. I'm going to be doing this on all the cars today in the video. This is all the exact same setup. What you're going to want to do, well, number one, don't kill the car. But, so obviously, you know, front wheel drive cars, they're more of a pull than they are a push like the other cars. So to get the car to oversteer around a corner, it's a little difficult. You can't really get the car to swing its weight around. You can, but it's a little difficult. It's a little bit easier on dirt. So to do that, you're going to do what's called a Scandinavian flick. And the thing with front wheel drive cars is you don't really want to counter steer with front wheel drive cars a whole lot. They don't really handle counter steering very well. They do, but they don't. So the biggest thing, and now especially for sharp corners as well, so I'll show you here. For sharp corners, they handle much better. The gearing on this car isn't exactly the best. But, so what you can do, and as you can see from my brake inputs, I should maybe have kept that in first, but they don't like to counter steer very much. So you're better off slowing down and keeping your wheels at a constant angle as opposed to where you want to go. Just like that. So with front wheel drive cars, you're not really going to be doing a whole lot of sliding. But you're just going to want to keep the wheel at a constant angle. The other thing you're going to want to do, and this goes across all classes of cars, you're going to want to just before every corner, for the most part, not every corner, you're going to want to hit the brakes so that you can balance the weight of the car forward and you can get grip to come around on your corners. Because otherwise, if you don't, what ends up happening is you lose your grip and you understeer and you plow forward. This spot right here is a really good spot to kind of get the hang of exactly how your car is going to do in a corner. The other thing with front wheel drive is you can see as I'm turning, you'll see that my throttle is not all the way depressed. Now the reason for that has something to do with the setup, and that is your differential lock. Because with the throttle fully depressed, your front differential will be fully locked, and you have more of an opportunity to basically cause your car to understeer and not grip in a corner. The other thing you can do in some shallower corners is instead of hitting the brake, I just want listen to that sound. So for some shallower corners, instead of hitting the brake, you can just let off the throttle. And that will cause enough weight to shift forward that you can still get enough of that weight transfer to go forward. Let's hop over to a rear-wheel drive car, and I'll show you the difference there. So now we're going to hop over to the Ford Escort Mark II, which, again, I'm using these cars because I assume most newer players, when you're starting out, this is probably going to be the first car in this class that you're going to buy. I believe it's also maybe the cheapest. I'm not 100% sure. So we'll load up the Ford in the Dirtfish Rally School, and I'll kind of show you how this car differs on the other end to the front wheel drive cars. Again, bone stock setup. This is exactly how the car comes from the factory, as you would say. Now these cars, especially this one, counter steering is going to be much more of a thing. These cars are much more touchy to throttle and steering inputs than the front wheel drive cars are. So with these cars, the number one thing I can suggest is learn throttle input, because most of how this car is going to handle is completely dependent on your throttle input. Throttle input is going to be number one, and then after that it's going to be brake input. Oop. For that exact reason right there. With these cars, you're going to want to do the same thing. You're going to want to brake in front of a corner to shift the weight forward. It's going to happen a little bit more dramatically than it did on the front wheel drive cars. And the reason for that is because as soon as you get on the gas, all that weight transfer is now on the front wheels, and it's not much on the rear wheels. And so that makes it very, very easy for the rear wheels to break traction and come around. Now, as soon as you feel the rear end start to slide back out, that's when you're going to want to counter steer. And then from there, it's simply all throttle inputs and steering inputs to maintain an angle. Another technique you can use is what's called clutch kicks. Now you can use these if you're in maybe a little bit too high of a gear, or you've got a wide angle that you want to keep that. So that's as simple as kicking the clutch. Or if you want a quick adjustment of the angle, I messed that up right there, but so like if you're coming in too wide and you want to quickly adjust your angle, this works a little bit better in hairpins than it will in some shallow corners. However, it can be applied. I do not recommend it because it's not a very controlled. Also, I should note that the difference in driving surface makes a very big difference in all of this too. So as you can see here, when I'm on this tarmac surface, you will lose grip a little bit quicker. That's going to be the biggest thing for rear-wheel drive cars, is really learning how to throw the weight around and control the weight of your car. So throttle input, brake input, and steering input are going to be the two most important things in this class of car. Also, balancing the car. Balancing the car is much more important in a rear-wheel drive, simply because all of your power is coming out of one location. You really want to make sure that your car is perfectly balanced so you can get the grip in the exact spots that you need it. Because sometimes, obviously in straightaways, you're going to want the weight in the back of the car for the grip. And then when you're coming into a corner, you're going to want to shift that weight forward so that you can get the car to do what you want to do to get around the stage as fast as you possibly can in that drivetrain. That was your rear-wheel drive cars. Now let's go take a look at the all-wheel drive cars. All right, so now we're in the all-wheel drive Ford Fiesta in the R5 class. Again, completely stock setup, exactly as the car comes. Now this time, these are kind of an interesting mix between front-wheel and rear-wheel drive cars. So you still are going to want... You're still going to want to have that weight transfer of the rear-wheel drive cars, but you're not going to have the as excessive oversteer that you will with the rear-wheel drive cars. So what that means is essentially all you're going to want to do is basically point the wheels of the car in the direction you want to go. And that's pretty much it, really. That's all you're going to want to do. You're just going to want to point the wheels. If you find yourself coming in too wide, you can either let the gas off or you can tap the brakes a little bit, and that will get your car to rotate around very tightly. But otherwise, for the most part, the all-wheel drive cars are extremely easy to drive. All you really have to do is just point the wheels in the direction that you want to go. And the car will go. It's fairly simple. There's not much to it. They're very, very easy cars to drive. Now, you have two options that you can take. With how to get around sharp corners in these cars. And you can do it, you can actually do it in almost every class of car. It doesn't work very well in the front wheel drive cars, but I'll show it to you right now. It's called the Scandinavian Flick. So if you don't know what that is, the Scandinavian Flick is basically counter steer. Well, here, let me find a better spot for this to be used. We'll do it off this jump. So Scandinavian Flick, turn away from the corner, hit the brakes, shift the weight, turn into the corner, and then get on the gas. So this is a way, if you don't want to use a handbrake, this is a way to shift the weight of the car, shift the weight of the car around very quickly, and get it in the direction that you want to go. So the other alternative, and these are mainly used on very tight corners. So for the handbrake, it's literally just as simple. You just pull the handbrake, car rotates around very quickly. I prefer to stay away from this unless it's a very, very sharp hairpin, because the car sometimes can become very upset and you will lose control of the car. And that's not something that you want to do going 100 miles an hour down a very narrow pathway that you're not aware of. The other thing I can recommend in free play is there's lots of these little trails that you can take. Oh, where did that trail go now? Oh, here it is. There's lots of these little trails you can take. If you want to test your reaction times, drive down those trails as fast as you feel comfortable with, and just randomly pick. Say, I'm going to turn here. And try to take that corner as fast as you can. Now, the benefit to this is it's free play. So if you crash a car, whatever, no big deal. So, a tip for taking a high-speed corner, like that, is as you're driving straight, simply a little bit of steering input, tap the brake to shift the weight forward, and the car will kind of bring itself around for you. You don't really have to do a whole lot. Very, very simple. So you're going to have to kind of spend some time getting used to how the car shifts its weight. And all these things can be adjusted in setups later, but that will be a future episode where I'll kind of explain how I set up cars in certain locations. Now that we've got that done, I'm going to take these cars to a stage. We're going to put them in a real stage, and I'll kind of do a breakdown of exactly how to implement these techniques in your driving. Okay, so we've got our cars in grease. Again, bone stock setups. This is exactly how these cars were in the free play. So I'm going to demonstrate on this stage here because there's a lot of things right away in the very beginning of the stage that are going to incorporate all those things that I talked about in the free play.
Keep left over 60, 3 left on cut, 30, slow 6 left long over crest into turn sudden, unseen, tight hairpin right.
So we'll brake the car. Front wheel drive cars don't really do hairpins very well, so you're kind of going to have to take them slow.
Left over 60, 6 right.
So again, slow the car down, hit the brakes,
Keep left over
hold
crest
your
into
steering
sudden,
angle,
6 right.
and then lightly get back on the throttle.
Long 100.
So then for this,
Slow.
same thing.
Open hairpin right.
Just hold your angle,
Opens.
brake. You can kind of counter steer a little bit just to give yourself a little bit more angle to work with.
6 right long over crest. Into 6 left.
And going downhill, your brake inputs are going to have to change just ever so slightly because you are going much faster.
5 right over crest. 50. 5
Oh, I took that corner a little fast. So you can kind of use the Scandinavian flick on these cars a little bit.
Left over crest jump. And slow crest.
It doesn't work the best,
Into unseen
but it does work in a pinch. These old cars don't really get a whole lot of grip, so this section can be a little difficult in some of these older cars.
5 left over dip and crest. Slow 50. Unseen happy left.
Now, what you can also do, which I mentioned before, if you so choose, is you can use the handbrake.
Unseen tight hairpin right.
I don't like to use the handbrake in older cars that didn't actually have a handbrake. That's just my personal preference on how to play. So you can do it however you want, but for me personally, I like to play the game where if the car in real life didn't have a handbrake, I don't use it in game.
Left 40. 6 right tightens. 30.
So however feels more comfortable for you, or however feels more fun, if you'd like an extra challenge, I would highly recommend not using the handbrake on older cars that did not have one.
Very long. Tightens. Into short 6 left.
So you can see right there coming over that hump, I hit the brakes just a little bit, and that was to balance the car coming over that crest, because as you go over that crest, you're going to lose grip in the front wheels of your car, and there's a very good chance that you will miss that very sharp corner because you're just coming over a crest, and at the end of that long straight, you're going to be going very fast. So that is my tip for front wheel drive cars in a real life situation. And especially there's little things like that, like going over crests, you're going to want to tap the brakes. Now let's do that exact same stage in a rear-wheel drive car, and I'll kind of show you, again, those same techniques. There's going to be a lot more counter steering, a lot more throttle modulation, much more throttle control. All right, so now we've got our Ford Mark II. Again, same thing, bone stock setup.
Keep left over 60, 3 left on cut. 30, slow 6 left long of a crest into turn sudden.
A little bit of counter steer.
Right.
Again, heavy on the brakes.
4 left long, opens.
And you can kind of use the throttle to get it around really tight hairpins like that. Again, you have to be careful, especially in these old rear-wheel drive cars.
6 right.
It's very, very easy to lose the rear end.
100. Slow, turn, open hairpin right. Opens. 100. Over crest.
Oh, I lost it. And that's why throttle control is very, very important. All of your timing on doing the Scandinavian flick in a rear-wheel drive car is very important, because if you get on the throttle just a little too early, it's very easy to lose the rear end of the car, and you'll spin exactly just the same way I did. Oh, might help if I actually caught the gear.
4, long tightens, into 4, right of a jump, opens 5, extra long, 50, 6 left, tightens, turn early, 5 over crest jump.
One of the things that you can do if you find yourself rotating too much, one of the things that I like to do
into 6 left, opens of a crest jump,
is let off the throttle, hit the clutch, downshift 1 gear. That typically will give the rear end of your car enough time
left of a 30, 6 right,
to catch in the grip,
40, middle of a crest into 6 left,
and you can save yourself from spinning. In very sharp corners, you generally don't have enough time to do this. However, in some bigger corners,
6 right long, to bump and dip 30,
in some bigger corners, it will sometimes give you just enough grip to keep yourself.
Keep right of a 80. 5 left of a dip and crest, slow 50, unseen heavy left.
So as you can see around some of these really tight hairpins, I'm just kind of feathering the throttle,
4 long of a crest,
just giving it enough
downhill, unseen
to kind of pop the car around the corner and come out very, very smoothly.
And 4 right long, opens 30.
Except for that one. That one I messed the timing up on. But you have to be very, very careful. It really doesn't take a whole lot, and you can pop the car around that corner.
Left long of a crest, opens of a crest, into 6 right.
But again, you will be doing much more counter steering
6 right
in a front-wheel drive car
6 right
than you would in a front wheel.
Left 50, tight 4 left of a crest into turn 2 right tightens. Opens 5, very long, tightens into short 6 left. 30, 6 left, opens long to keep middle of a crest. 50, keep right of a crest into 5 left, middle of an 80, 6 right over finish to stop. Well done.
Much more steering corrections going on, because the rear-wheel drive cars, as I said, are very sensitive to throttle inputs. And if your car is not balanced properly or at an angle that you don't want, you can very easily lose control of the car and spin. So throttle inputs are going to be the number one thing with a rear-wheel drive car. Steering, throttle, brake inputs. All of that stuff is extremely important in the rear-wheel drive cars. So now let's go to the Fiesta. We'll do that exact same stage. And you can kind of see the all-wheel drive cars are kind of a mix of the rear wheel and the front wheel drive cars. Now, all of this stuff can all change slightly depending on how your setup is. But as I said earlier, I'll cover that in a different video. You know, if that's something that you guys are interested in seeing. So if you do want to see a setup video based on the 3 different classes of cars, go ahead and drop a comment down below. Tell me that you want the setup video, and I'll make a setup video. All right, we've got our Fiesta. Same thing, stock tuning. Let's take this car out, and we'll see what we can do.
Keep left over 60, 3 left on cut. 30, slow 6 left long over crest into turn, sudden, unseen, tight hairpin right. And
Now in these tight hairpins,
opens
because this is a newer car that has a handbrake,
6
I will
right.
tend to use it much more
Left over
often.
crest into sudden, 6
However,
right. Into 6
as I
left,
said, I do try to
very long,
avoid it
100.
as much as possible
Slow, turn, open hairpin
because
right.
it can make the car very unpredictable.
Opens 100 over crest.
You can use it to get the initial brake
Into 6 left.
in traction in the rear of the car.
Right over crest.
However,
30,
I
right
do
left
recommend
long, tightened, forward of a dip.
doing the rest of the hairpin
Crest, 50. 5 right tightens.
all with throttle and steering.
Caution narrow for right.
Throttle, steering, and brake inputs.
Into 3 left. Opens 4. Long tightens. Into 4 right of a jump. Opens 5. Extra long. 50. 6 left. Tightens turn early. 5 over crest jump. Into 6 right. Very long. To keep middle of a crest. 100. Downhill. Slow. Unseen. Open hairpin left.
So again, the Scandinavian flick
6 right.
on the brakes, counter steer,
Into 6
turn in,
left. Opens of a crest
get the
jump.
brake in traction with the weight
Slow
transfer,
crest jump into
and boom,
unseen, tight
you're around the
right.
corner and going.
Keep left of a 30. 6 right.
Uh-oh.
40.
I did that a little too early. So
Middle of a crest into
as I was
6
saying
left,
before, when you're
30,
going
unseen,
downhill,
left.
a lot of these things you're going to want to do early because your car is going much
70.
faster and the weight is working against you.
6 right long. To bump and
So you're going to want to do
30,
a lot of these
unseen, tight hairpin
inputs
right to
just
3.
slightly early because the car is going to be falling
5 left of a dip and
as you're
crest.
doing it.
Slow 50. Unseen hairpin left.
So just keep that in mind, especially in a stage like this where all these hairpins are downhill.
50 downhill. Unseen. Tight hairpin right. Into 6 left of a crest. And 4 right long. Opens 30.
And again, throttle modulation to get yourself through that corner and keep the car rotating.
Into 4 left of a cut. 4 right and 4 left long of a crest. Opens of a crest. Into 6 right. Into 6 left.
Whoa.
40.
I guess they didn't need that sign.
30. 6 right to crest. 6 left. 50.
And again, slight brake inputs to keep the car balanced through this fast section on some of these very tight,
Opens 5.
flowing corners.
Tightens. Into short 6 left.
And that's going to help balance the car so that you don't end up understeering in the corner going at that speed. So just very, very slight brake inputs.
Middle of an 80.
Balance the car.
6 right of the finish. To stop. Well done.
So there we go. That's kind of my tips and tricks. Not necessarily tricks, I guess, but tips and techniques for driving the various classes of cars that you'll come across in Dirt Rally. You know, there may be some things that I missed. I will say front wheel drive is not my favorite class, so I don't drive them very often. I'm sure there's probably something that I missed. So if there is, let me know in the comments down below. I can always update it in a future video because I will be breaking things down more per class in later videos in the series. All right, guys, that's it for the video. I hope you really enjoyed it. You know, don't forget to like, comment what you thought. If I missed something or if you have another very specific question, be sure to type that in the comments down below. I will try to answer it as best as I possibly can. But that is it for me. Again, I'm trying to make this into a series. So, you know, I'll be breaking things down in the future. This was just a basics on how to drive the different classes of drivetrain in the game. You know, later I'll break it down into per car class because they do differ. You know, the 2000cc cars and the R5 cars and the Group A cars all have their different little differences between the two of them. Also, setups per location is another thing to keep in mind as well. But for right now, I just wanted to start it off with the different car classes as far as drivetrain are concerned. So if you have any other questions, again, be sure to type them down in the comments, or you can always catch me live on Twitch at twitch.tv/roadsidetv every Thursday playing Dirt Rally. You can always come in, ask me questions while I'm live and streaming, and I will always try my best to answer them as I play. So that's it for me, guys. Thank you for watching the video. I'll see you next time.
3, 2, 1, go. 40, 6 left, into 3 right long, opens 30, 3 right long, tightens into sudden turn 2 left, 50, 2 right long, tightens, into 3 left, into 3 right, 30, 4 left long, tightens and slow 30, 6 left tightens, turn 2 left, into 3 right long, tightens 30, 4 left of a crest, small cut maybe, 30, 3 right long, tightens 2, 30, 3 left, 60, turn 5 right, extra long, opens flat of a crest, 80, flat left of a jump, into small cut, 4 right long, into 6 left of a crest long, tightens 3, into 2 right, into 2 left long, tightens, into 5 right, tightens 4, extra long, tightens, into 4 left, and 3 left tightens, to keep right, into 6 left, and keep right, into 5 left long, into 4 left tightens, 30, 4 right long, opens 30, 5 right long, tightens of a bump, into 4 left long, tightens narrow, 100, 5 left of a bump, into unseen, 3 right long, opens 30, keep right, into slight left and narrow, 4 right, into 6 left, and 3 left, cut to a crest, turn 2 right long, open to the crest, and keep left into 5 right small cut, 30, 4 left long, opens 40, keep right of a jump maybe into 5 left long, 50, keep left into 5 right long, opens of a jump maybe, into 6 left of a jump long, into narrow, 6 right, into 5 left, extra long, opens keep right of a big jump, to crest, into 6 left long, tightens, 70, keep left, into 5 right, very long, 50, 6 left, extra long, tightens, 3, 30, 2 right long, tightens, into 4 left, opens, into open heavy, right long, opens, into 6 left, into 5 right, into 6 left long, tightens on a crest, into 5 right long, tightens, into unseen, 2 left, extra long, opens, into 4 right, small cut, into 4 left long, opens over crest, into 6 right, 70, cut, 6 right, into 5 left long over crest, narrow, into 4 right, into 2 left tightens, into turn 3 right, 50, and left of a jump maybe narrow, 50 over finish, into 6 left to stop.
The Murray Walker Memorial Trophy for Masters Historic Formula One is all set to go at Silverstone. Michael Lyons leads the field around as we come through into the final corner, preparing to stir up a lot of Ford Cosworth V8 engines as they will go racing for 20 minutes around the full Silverstone circuit. We are preparing and we are ready to go. Michael Lyons sets off from pole position. Yep, here we go now, up to speed, and he gets away well. The Williams alongside him of Mike Cantillon, Steve Hartley in third place in the other McLaren, the MP4, but a good start there by Michael Lyons. He's taken an advantage immediately through Abbey Corner, and look at the speed of him on the opening lap.
Absolutely amazing, these Formula One cars, after we've seen the other more slower sports cars earlier on. But Michael Lyons taking the lead in grid order, actually. Mike Cantillon, then it was Steve Hartley, Jamie Constable and Lucas Halusa in 5th position.
Yeah, Lucas Halusa, who won in the sports car in the Ferrari earlier on today. He is racing in the M23, the Austrian, the 30-year-old who certainly showed us some good pace in a sports car. We'll see how he gets on in a Formula 1 car. You're looking at Mike Cantillon in second place, the number 7 Williams, the FW07, but he's coming under quite a lot of pressure.
Left and then the right to complete the first lap.
Indeed they do, and all over the dust, over the oil that got laid down earlier, makes the visibility really hard for everybody following, I have to say, when they run over. Oh, and it's a spin for the McLaren. Oh, that Steve Hartley, I believe, has spun through Abbey Corner. We could see it from our commentary position. You haven't seen it on screen yet, but I just caught a glimpse of it out of the window. I don't know whether that was connected with going onto the sand or the dust. Oh, and that's another car that also...
That's Ken Tyrrell in the number 23. Tyrrell also had a spin.
Oh dear, so as a result of the oil that's down, I'm surprised at that because surely maybe they weren't watching the race earlier, didn't realise, and surely on the outlap they would have seen all that dust still down. But that means that Jamie Constable's now moved up into third place. Mike Cantillon is still in second. Michael Lyons is leading the race, comfortably there in car number 8. Constable lead at advantage at the moment over Cantillon in second place, Constable in third, and Steve Brooks now in fourth in the Lotus 91. And that was a great shame to see the spins, particularly for Steve Hartley. He is up and running again and may be able to make up some of the lost ground.
Yes, he spun almost within the confines of the track, actually, and he ended up back on the track, selected first gear and moved away. So that was very lucky that he kept the engine running, Steve Hartley, but he has lost a lot of places. It'll be interesting to see him come through the field during this race. But Michael Lyons it is who's dominating at the moment as he comes down the Hanger Straight into Stowe Corner. That's a classic Grand Prix shot, isn't it, Ben? The long shot down towards up the hill towards Chapel Curve.
Yeah, and then we've got that battle between the Tyrrell and the Lotus. This is for third place now, so a podium finish, although Steve Hartley's moving back up the order. He's got back up into fifth place. He's just moved ahead of Luca Halusa in the other McLaren, the M23 car in the background. But for the moment, it's Jamie Constable here in third in the Tyrrell, chased by the Lotus number 99. The Lotus is number 12, and through the dust they come. And this time I think they're all being a bit more sensible about not running straight across it.
Yes, some of them are just catching the edge of it, but most of them keeping off it. In fact, as I say that, one car drives all the way up the dust.
Mark Hazel in the pits, that's a shame. In the other Williams there, that's the FW08C. Another lovely car, a car that was run in 1982. Had a great deal of success, part of Rosberg's title-winning season.
And it was actually the type of car that Ayrton Senna first drove in Formula, not in a race, but in testing. He drove an FW08C.
That was at Donington, wasn't it?
At Donington Park, that's right, in 1983.
Yeah, wonderful to see. And he was impressive from the start, of course. Now, there is Steve Hartley. So he had the spin. He's got himself back into fifth place. He's now actually chasing after Steve Brooks in the Lotus. So Steve's got some pace, even though he had that mishap earlier on. And we could see him fight his way back. Michael Lyons is opening up a good advantage. He set fastest lap as well. Last time around, his gap was 3.8 seconds when they went over the line. But now Hartley is trying to close the gap to Brooks in the Lotus. Jamie Constable's got a bit more of a gap now in third place in the Tyrrell. Holding on to second still, the FW07C Williams, 1979 Williams car with ground effect. Raced back in Spain in that year, car put together by Patrick Head, and Frank Durney was very much a key part of the Williams team in those days. They drew a lot of ground effect knowledge from the Lotus 79, which had come before it, and the FW07 went on to win at Silverstone, taking its first win at Silverstone, and Clay Regazzoni took the first win for Williams here back in 1979, and that FW07 is the car that's running in second. But look, we've got a good battle going on now.
We have indeed, yes. Steve Hartley, after that spin at Abbey on the first lap, was it the first lap or the second lap? Can't remember now. Too much has gone on. But anyway, he's recovered now to catch Steve Brooks as they come down into the right-hander at the village. They're just passing Judy Lyons there as they make their way into the tight right, now the tight left. And Steve Hartley looking for a way through, goes tight through the loop, gets alongside Steve Brooks, but he might lose out again as they go through Aintree. Brooks gives him room, but then cuts across in front, and Hartley ends up going way out onto the real estate on the outside of Aintree, and that's lost him some time.
Don't do a Kimi Räikkönen. Kimi had a big spin down there a few years ago. I wouldn't want to see that. Thankfully, it didn't happen on this occasion, and Steve is still chasing down, and he's got fastest lap, so he's clearly got pace.
Yes, absolutely, and this is a fabulous car, the MP4. It was the first car from McLaren of the new era of Ron Dennis, and tremendously successful it was. As they come down towards Cox Corner, this blindingly quick right-hander, they tuck in through the right, they might just, they keep well off the curbs actually, both being very good and not running wide, and up over the crest into the left-hander at Maggots, and through he goes. That's a great run from Steve Hartley to pass Steve Brooks.
Yep, so he's up into 4th place, so is he still with a chance of getting a podium? I think there might still be an opportunity for him. Michael Lyons is leaping out in front, but 2nd, 3rd in particular, he's got a chance of chasing down the Tyrrell. As you say, this was a wonderful car, and in fact the same type of car with which John Watson won the 1981 British Grand Prix here in 1981. So some 40 years to celebrate. Watty winning. Man, I've commentated with many times over the years. He's actually busy this weekend commentating on elsewhere, but it's lovely to see the car that the same style of car that he did so well at Silverstone, racing hard here. It might have had a spin down at this section earlier on, but it is definitely closing up on the Tyrrell up ahead. It's the 011 Tyrrell, the 011. That's also a 1981 car, isn't it?
Well, the car, Steve Hartley's car, is actually the car that Watty drove in the period. He won the Caesars Palace, the Detroit Grand Prix from 17th on the grid. And here we're seeing the very unusual 6-wheel Tyrrell. This is a recreation of the car. It's not an original. It's been built up for Jonathan Holtzman, but very much with the support of the Tyrrell family, who were very much happy to give him drawings and all the specifications for this car, which actually did win a race in Sweden.
Yeah, 1-2. They got a 1-2, didn't they?
Yeah, that's right, but wasn't massively successful. But the idea was aerodynamics, get the front wheels much smaller by using a pair of them instead of one each side.
Yeah, problem being though that the tyre compounds and things didn't always work out quite so perfectly for them. But it's lovely to see a P34 out there. It's such a unique shape, that front end with the four front wheels. So very good to see. Meanwhile, Steve Hartley still lapping quickly and trying to close that gap down to Jamie Constable. Not quite there in sight of him. Well, it's certainly in sight, but in terms of getting alongside, he's not quite there. Ken Tyrrell, yeah, that's his name, in 9th place, up ahead of Warren Briggs at this stage. He is trying to find a bit more pace as well. Ken, American, was also racing a Tyrrell, but not actually related to the Tyrrell family. Happens to have exactly the same name, which is fun to see. Now, Steve Hartley, can he find a bit more pace as he comes down through the last couple of corners? We're completing another lap. Still got just over 10 minutes to go in this Formula One Memorial Trophy race in memory of Murray Walker, and he's certainly got a good run going here. Don't get too much on the dusty stuff. That's where it went wrong for him earlier, but he's following that Tyrrell closely.
He is indeed, yes. It's the Tyrrell of Jamie Constable as they go up to Village. Now Hartley going for the inside, a little bit later on the brakes. Ooh, a little bit squirrely there on the braking, but managed to get through the corner okay, but that's really compromised his line up to the loop. Now he'll try again, I'm sure, as they go out through Aintree onto the very fast Wellington Straight. Not that much slower down here than the Hangar Straight as they come down towards Brooklands. Still Constable ahead in 3rd place, Hartley in 4th.
Yeah, the number 99 car, the Tyrrell, the 011, it was a 1981 car. It was raced by Michele Alboreto and Eddie Cheever that year. It got better the following year, actually, 1982. Michele Alboreto had some good results, a 5th in Brazil, 4th at Long Beach, 3rd at Imola, and then had a victory at Las Vegas. And that was a very key victory for the Tyrrell team. And the drivers who had opportunities with Tyrrell at that time included the likes of Slim Borgard, Brian Henton, Danny Sullivan joined the team in 1983, but they weren't running with turbo engines, so it wasn't a particularly competitive team at the time.
The Tyrrell 011 actually saw the end of an era because it was one of these sorts of cars, and we're going to have a change of position there. We're not room there.
It's pretty
to get
close
through.
though,
Yeah,
isn't it? I wonder if we...
Down. But the car leading here was the last type of car to win a Grand Prix with a DFV engine. So the huge and successful 186 wins as Steve Hartley looks for the inside at Stowe Corner, but can't find the way through there. Jamie Constable managing to hold him back in the Tyrrell. It's the McLaren behind, which is in the famous orange and white or red and white colours as they come through the right-hander at Club Corner. And actually, Jamie Constable a little quicker through there, and he's opened up a bit of a gap on Steve Hartley for third and fourth places as they come up the Hamilton Straight.
Yeah, so he still hasn't quite found a way through, and he's being very cautious into Abbey after his spin there, which is understandable. He would have lost a little bit of confidence in that section, whereas Jamie looks pretty confident. But it's up here now. The McLaren seems to close in a little bit, and particularly after Beckett's, that's where it definitely seems to have a little bit more pace than the Tyrrell in the hands of Steve Hartley. Let's see how it goes here. This is a key area, as we know. You can get a decent tow on the run down towards Brooklands. I'm not sure he's quite close enough, though, to have a go. Let's see whether he can close in on the Tyrrell up ahead. No, not close enough to actually get alongside. Meanwhile, further back, we've still got Steve Brooks in the Lotus, not too far behind them, keeping a watchful eye in the Lotus 91. Then there is a bit of a gap back to Lucas Salusa, the Austrian racing in the McLaren M23 on this one, as he stays ahead of Warren Briggs for now. Fastest lap, actually, to Stephen Hartley, as we know, but can he find a way through? Now, it's this next section where he does seem to have good pace.
It is, yes, out of Copse Corner, up the rise into the fast left-hander at Maggots, which leads into the sweepers at Beckett's, and it's right and then left and then right again, which leads them out to the fast left. And Steve Hartley has another spin in the middle of Beckett's, and again he does a full 360.
Oh no!
And unfortunately,
clipped
the Lotus as it came by, and that's really unfortunate there. Steve Brooks had nowhere else to go. He had to go around the outside, and I think that's damaged the front left wheel, as it looks to be at a strange angle then.
Well, you're usually more sensitive on the front wheel than the rear wheel with a bit of contact like that. And that is a great shame. Steve's been trying quite hard, but making a couple of mistakes, and that has meant that Jamie Constable is now pretty comfortable in third place. Let's take a little look back. So Steve on the attack, we knew he was quick here, but it just went wrong for him. He runs a tiny bit wide there, maybe carries a bit too much speed in. He's in the real slipstream. He lost a bit of downforce, could have been part of it as well, trying to take a lovely 360, but then the Lotus flicking around the outside, and I think you're right that it has damaged the left front suspension, the steering arm perhaps on the McLaren. Another look at it from a different angle. He's lost the back end as he went through the left-hand section. Didn't know quite where the Lotus was. The Lotus went around the outside, bosh, into the front wheel. He is picking up the pace, so maybe it is still working okay.
Yes, he could have got away with that. It was only a glancing blow, but we've seen plenty of times what seems like a very minor contact actually damages the steering, and drivers aren't going to drive the car flat out if the steering is damaged, so they tend to call into the pits. As we look at our leader, Michael Lyons, we haven't seen much of Michael, have we? He's been absolutely dominant so far in this race in the Ensign.
Yeah, the Ensign, which in its day was not a particularly quick car. The likes of Alicia Salazar, Roberto Guerrero, Mark Sura drove it in early 1981 as well. It was a team that was a bit tight on budget, and they struggled to make it run near the front, but it's certainly running at the front here. 4.3 seconds, the advantage over the Williams, chasing him of Mike Cantillon, that beautiful FW07, very classic 1979 machine. Alan Jones, who went on to win the title in 1980 and had some very strong performances. He won at Hockenheim in 1979, so a car that we saw Alan Jones do a lot of fantastic racing with.
Well, this particular car was driven by Carlos Reutemann in 1981, and it was the very car that he lost the 1981 World Championship to Nelson Piquet by 1 point, because Reutemann's drive at Caesars Palace was, what I've written in my notes, lackluster, and it's never been explained why he wasn't quick in that race, but he didn't get enough points to beat Piquet. Piquet finished 5th and got enough points to beat Reutemann, and we read recently we lost Carlos Reutemann only last week.
Yeah. And indeed, in those, there was a bit of a slide from Michael, but I think he's dealing well with the lead. Yeah, the FW07. In those days, we often modified a car over a couple of years, so it would stay the same number, maybe have a slightly different term after it, the C meaning it was the slightly later car of the FW07. But it's slightly different nowadays, where every year there's a different car. In those days, the cars were slightly more modified from one year to another before perhaps they came up with a completely new design.
And they were developed throughout the year as well, weren't they? Which tends not to happen these days because there's rules about what you can change and what you can't. But it was a constant development.
Yeah, well, it is still constant development, even if the rules are limited. There's still been a lot of work on changing. That's Lucas Halusa, who we saw winning earlier today in the Ferrari Bread Van, and now he's out in the McLaren and he's running in 6th place on this occasion. There's one of the Arrows, car number 49, Neil Glover. That's the Arrows A5. 1982 car. Again, Mark Sura would have been a driver for Arrows back in the day. Mauro Baldi. It's an evolution of the Arrows A4, the team that Jackie Oliver ran, former great racing driver, and of course went on to become a great historic racing driver himself as well. And a very successful team. That's Michael Lyons lapping the P34 Tyrrell and picking off a few more as he comes around. Good, comfortable advantage, keeping it about the same. 4.8 seconds, the gap now to Cantillon in 2nd place. And Jamie Constable holding on to 3rd. Steve Brooks is still going. Yeah, he's doing a fine in the Lotus. Just trying to see how the other McLaren is getting on. Still doing a good job, actually, isn't it? Hanging on in there, Steve Hartley, despite that incident earlier. Well, he is, yeah, he's back in 4th place.
Yeah, it looks to be neither of those cars suffered any significant damage. In fact, Brooks, I think, may have got a problem. He's not come through over the timing line.
Yeah. Oh, there was a little bit of a slide there, trying to get through the traffic. It didn't quite work for Mike Cantillon getting past the Tyrrell, and he had to hit the brake a bit harder than he was expecting to.
Brooks is there, he's come through, but quite a long way behind. He lost a lot of time on that.
Right, okay, I wonder if there's a problem on the car. They're chasing down Paul Tattersall, another ensign. That's the ensign 179. That was a difficult year for them. Likes of Patrick Gaillard, Derek Daly, Mark Sura racing the ensign 179 back in the day. On this occasion, it's Paul Tattersall. Hasn't quite got the pace of the front runners, but Cantillon goes through safely. And yeah, as you say, Steve Brooks is definitely dropping back a little bit. Lucas Halusa is ahead of him now, isn't he?
Yeah, he lost about 20 seconds on that last lap, so whether that was a quick spin away from our cameras or whether he has a technical problem and has slowed, but he came over the line, carried on the next lap, so hopefully it was just a quick spin and he can continue. Still ahead of Lucas Halusa though, then Warren Briggs in 7th place.
Under a minute to go, but it means that across the line he goes. It's probably onto the final lap. The checkered flag presumably will be coming out at the end of this, as Lyons has this useful advantage. He's built it up a bit more actually over the last lap. It's up to nearly 7 seconds. Jamie Constable still in 3rd place in the Tyrrell and hanging on in there in 4th despite that 2 spins that he's had now and a little bit of contact with the Lotus. Steve Hartley, I believe, is still in 4th position. Very far back though. I'm just waiting for him still to come over the line in the track ground. Yeah, he has just crossed the line now. He's a long, long way down.
Yes, he's lost a lot of time with those 2 spins actually in the end, wasn't it? But he comes through okay.
Yeah, so the field was rather spaced out during the duration of what is a sprint race, a 20-minute sprint race. And Michael Lyons is looking very, very comfortable on the final lap. And it looks like he's on for a fairly easy victory, I have to say. I'm sure he's delighted to get this opportunity. As we said, it was originally going to be Johnny Herbert driving this car, but Johnny pulled out in the end, and it is Michael Lyons who's dominated in the wet in qualifying, and he's dominated in the dry in similar fashion. And this car is obviously beautifully set up. Very straightforward ground effect car. You can see the way that the side pods use the airflow beneath them to suck the car down onto the road. Funnily enough, next year in Formula One, we'll see ground effect coming back. It was banned for a long time. They created what they call flat-bottom Formula One cars to reduce the amount of downforce. And next year, ground effect will be back because it's a way of creating downforce that doesn't create the same turbulence behind and hopefully will allow for closer racing. Michael Lyons comes out of the last corner in the Murray Walker Memorial Trophy to take victory. A very, very comfortable victory in the Ensign. Well done to Michael Lyons, dominating the event. He beats Mike Cantillon by a comfortable margin of 7.8 seconds as they cross the line. The Williams finishing in second place with a beautiful car to see out there, but it's Ensign versus Williams, and then a Tyrrell. We're waiting for Jamie Constable. He's just crossing the line. There he is. So another British manufactured Formula One car, and that one finished in third place.
Michael, I'm going to come to you first. I think that's the fastest I've seen an Ensign go. You seem to check out at the start and all good.
Well, I can't complain on days like today, can I? I can't make any excuses. No, it's a testament to what the guys, the students, and obviously the wise eyes as well, guiding them over. We've done our homework. Obviously, it's not your first choice of Formula One winners, but the car's pretty good. We've done a bit of work and we've got it working well, and it's a testament to them because the level of competition here is really, really strong. I mean, you see the cars around us on the grid, and the drivers as well. They've won these championships before, so it's fantastic just to be able to be drafted in at the last minute and get to steal some glory.
Well done, Mike. You seem to be closing in a little bit in the middle of the race. He's quite a hard man to catch, isn't he?
Yeah, first of all, congratulations to Michael. You're an amazing drive. I just couldn't stay with him. I mean, we were putting in the quickest lap times that we've done around here. I still couldn't catch up with him, so fair play to him. But as always, tomorrow.
A great race. On to Jamie Constable. Jamie, you must be quite relieved when you saw Steve spin in your mirrors.
Well, I didn't actually see him spin in my rears, but when I got on the straight, expected him to be there, and he wasn't. So I assumed something happened. But I feel sorry for Steve. He caught the oil on the first lap, and it could have happened to any of us. So it's a lucky third, really, because he was driving well up until that point.
Well done to all three of you.
Becoming a well-versed sim racer is hard, and there are tons of common mistakes that cost new players lap time and overall consistency. To ensure that this doesn't happen to you, I gathered the top 5 biggest beginner mistakes you should avoid in sim racing and how you easily can fix them. Welcome back to Overtake.gg. My name is Champion Joe and I'm a sim racing editor here on the platform. I have tons of playing hours on various racing sims and I wanted to help you guys avoid making the same mistakes others are making across all racing games. So let's get started with mistake number 1, and that's not using the whole track. When you're just getting started with sim racing, staying on track is usually the most important point for newcomers. As many players migrate from racing games like Need for Speed or Forza Horizon or similar titles where car control is not that really important like it is in a sim. That's why beginners tend to overdrive a car, and when they start to adjust to the handling in the sim, they focus on staying on track first, which looks a bit like this. The car staying in the middle of everything for the most part, which isn't a bad thing at all. After all, staying on track is much better than visiting the gravel pit every 30 seconds, right? But it's not particularly fast. You see, a race car usually follows the outside, inside, outside rule, because the line, or rather the racing line you take through a corner, will determine how much speed you can carry through that turn. Simplified, this means that you will use the whole track and hug the outside while braking, steer the car to the inside where the apex of the corner lies, and when you accelerate out of the bend, you aim for the outside again to maximize your exit speed. Sounds easy, but many players do that wrong initially and struggle to perfect this craft even with this knowledge. The perfect aid to visualize where your car should be is not the ideal line you can display. No, it is the curbs. Every racetrack on the planet has them, and they show you where you should place your outside tires to maximize your grip through every corner. So when you're learning a new track, take it slow at first and have a look at the curbs available and what story they tell you. How should the perfect racing line look like? Also, don't be afraid to use all of the curbs available to you. Cut the chicane with 2 tires, let your car run wide on the curbing, on the exit, and test the limits of what's allowed and what counts as a track cut. And you will be surprised how much is actually legal to do in various racing sims. Another huge mistake you basically see in every racing game, or in F1 when Verstappen is going for a dive again, are players braking far too late for a corner. Yes, braking late will be faster into the corner, but it will most likely ruin your exit, leading to you crashing into an opponent or to your car becoming folded into a barrier. And this is where the famous sim racing saying comes into place: slow in, fast out. Which is of course a bit dramatic in its formulation, but in its core, it's the most essential racing tip you can get for bettering your corners and braking. But let's start from the beginning. When you are learning a new track and you have no clue where to brake, start to look at the side of the track to spot some markers that you can easily recognize while driving at a fast pace. This could be a tree, the start of the curbing, a line on the track, or the meter boards that solely are there for exactly this purpose. Just don't take any shadows, trust me. Then start at roughly 200 meters, for example, and see how long it takes for your car to slow down before you have to turn in. Or if you are already way too fast and overshooting the corner. Usually you adjust your braking point from there until you are as close to the turn as possible without having to break a sweat when turning in. Keep in mind that your car should flow through the turn, and that if you have a lot of movement in your steering that you have to correct, you are most likely already a few meters too late on the brakes. Practice makes perfect here, and when you feel comfortable with your braking and driving overall on track, maybe search for tutorials on trail braking next, as this will further lower your braking distance in the future. But that's more of an intermediate technique and too advanced for today. But if you would like to see a video from us about that topic, let us know in the comments down below. The third mistake I see often with newer drivers that start with sim racing is that they reject any kind of help from apps or programs whatsoever because they want it to be as realistic as possible. But that's a big mistake, especially when you are playing on a 16:9 monitor and are lacking the overview that you would have in a real car. Of course, upgrading to an ultra-wide monitor, VR goggles or triple screens can help you with that, but many of us don't have the money, which is why you should get all the help you can get from nifty programs. And there are many good ones out there. You should definitely consider getting a car radar. It shows you the cars around you, which will help dramatically to stay safe in side-by-side situations on track and to keep you cool under pressure. And there's even a program that can help you with your overview while also making you feel like you are still playing by the rules of the real world. This program is called Crew Chief, a free tool that will act as an engineer and spotter by radio. It can call you by your name, tell you when other cars are alongside you, and also will respond to voice commands if you ask it something. For example, you are driving in an online race, you have all the HUD elements turned off for the complete immersion and want to know what your position on track is, you can just ask, "What's my position?"
P15.
What an awesome tool. Everybody should use it. A link can be found, of course, in the video description. Mistake number 4 is a big one and treated with a technique that real racing drivers have to learn as well to adjust to the speed and to the low reaction times. Because for many beginners in sim racing, their vision while driving is incorrect. Usually when driving a car in real life, for example when driving through a city, the vision of the driver sits right in front of the car. You observe everything that's happening right in front of you, like traffic signs, construction sites, road markings, or people crossing the street. Because your speed is lower, when you spot something you have to react to. Like when approaching a corner, you have more than enough time to react to it. In a racing scenario, this is different. Your speeds are way higher and the time you have to react accordingly is much lower, which is why we have to adjust our vision to spot the next important point where your car should steer to. So when you're approaching a corner, your eyes should already focus on the apex coming up, so you can react in just the right time to start turning your wheel towards it. And I know, what about the braking point? How can I spot the braking point and have my eyes on the apex at the same time? Easy, you have to use your peripheral vision. Spot your brake marker with the corner of your eye, focus on the apex, and as soon as you arrive there, your eyes should already be focused on the exit ahead so you can take the ideal line out of the turn. This takes a while to practice and to get used to, but will better your lap times massively as well as your consistency. The best example I can give you are Eau Rouge and Radillon at Spa-Francorchamps, which are so much easier to master with this technique. Because the speed here is so high and the time to hit the perfect moment to start steering is so slim that every millisecond counts. So by having your eyes already on the inside while driving down into Eau Rouge makes it way easier to get out on the other side in one piece and to avoid cutting the track while doing so. Our last tip has to do with your attitude. What's your motivation to go racing? Only to win? Then get ready for a bumpy ride. Because compared to other esports titles out there, everybody on track is on their own and you are the only player in your team. Winning is always a 1 versus 20, 25 or even more situation. So if your only goal is to win every race, you will most likely get disappointed and lose interest in the hobby super quickly. My tip is to be your own rival and to find joy in the racecraft. Because every race is also a competition against your past best. Try to maximize your pace when you are driving without anyone around, alone in a race in P10 for example. Use the Delta display to shave off tenths each lap and to always be your best self, even though people around you might be way faster. Also learn to enjoy racing and not only overtaking, but also clean defending and long battles on track without contact with your opponent. If you start to value those situations, online racing will become the best possible experience you can have. if the outcome of battles is not as important than the battle itself, you can fully savor the moment without being disappointed if you only come home 13th in the end of a race. Of course, I'm not saying that you shouldn't try to be the best guy on track, that's also a lot of fun. But it's not the only thing that makes racing exciting. So keep your heads up, keep your fights as clean as possible at all times, and just try to enjoy yourself. What are your tips you would pass down to a beginner? Let me know.